Support American-made tariff-free clothing with American Giant with American Giant. They aren't affected by tariffs because their clothing products never left the U.S. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Okay, so picture this. You're at your go-to burger place, about to bite into a juicy burger. But right as you're reaching for it, you hear there's a massive ground beef recall. And it turns out your burger might have some unwanted guests, E. coli bacteria. It's the kind of food safety nightmare we're diving into today. And believe me, it gets pretty interesting.
Yeah, it really shows how even the most familiar foods can have these hidden risks. So we're going to break down what happened with this recall and, more importantly, what it means for you.
All right, so let's set the scene. It's November 2024. Wolverine Packing Co., a major meat packing company in Detroit, they issue a recall of over 167,000 pounds of ground beef. And we're not just talking about a few local grocery stores here. This beef went to restaurants all across the country.
And the reason behind this recall is a pretty nasty strain of E. coli, 0157.H7.
Now here's where the detective work starts. The first reports of E. coli cases weren't from people grilling at home. They were linked to restaurant meals in Minnesota. So the Minnesota Department of Agriculture got involved, and they traced the outbreak back to Wolverine Packing Co.
Yeah, that's a great example of how public health officials are always working behind the scenes to keep our food supply safe. It's a complex process, but without them, these outbreaks could become much larger.
It's pretty amazing how they can track these things back to the source. But back to the beef. The contaminated batches were all produced on October 22nd and had a use-by date of November 14th. I'm guessing you're giving us these dates for a reason.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, while the contaminated beef mainly went to restaurants, there's always a chance some of it could have ended up somewhere else, like in someone's home freezer if they took home leftovers.
That's a good point. I'm definitely going to double-check my fridge after this.
Yeah.
So we've established that E. coli contamination is a serious problem, but I think it's time for a little E. coli 101. What exactly are we dealing with, and why is it so dangerous?
Well, E. coli 0157, H7 is a type of bacteria that can live in your intestines and cause some pretty unpleasant symptoms, like stomach cramps, bloody diarrhea, and dehydration. For most healthy adults, it's a few rough days, but you usually recover within a week. However, for young children, the elderly, and people with weakened immune systems, E. coli can be a lot more serious.
I've heard about something called hemolytic uremic syndrome, or HUS, which can happen after an E. coli infection. What exactly is that, and why is it so concerning?
HUS is a rare but life-threatening complication. Basically, E. coli releases toxins that can damage small blood vessels, especially in the kidneys. This damage can lead to kidney failure, and then you would need dialysis or even a kidney transplant.
Wow, I had no idea it could be that serious. That definitely puts things into perspective. So where does Wolverine Packing Co. fit into all of this? How are they responding to this outbreak?
Well, they've been cooperating with the FSIS investigation, which is a good sign. They're also doing their own internal audits to figure out how the contamination happened and how to prevent it from happening again.
That seems like the standard response. But is it enough? What are other companies doing to prevent E. coli outbreaks before they happen? Are there any new approaches out there that Wolverine Packing Co. should be looking at?
That's a great question. Some companies are using new technologies like blockchain to track their products from farm to table. Imagine being able to scan a package of ground beef and immediately see its entire journey, including every single step of the processing and distribution process.
Wait, that's a thing? That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's becoming more and more real. Blockchain could totally change food safety by creating this transparent and tamper-proof record of every stage in the supply chain.
So if Wolverine Packing Co. had been using blockchain, would they have caught this contamination sooner?
It's impossible to know for sure, but it definitely could have given them more insight into their supply chain and potentially helped them find the source of the contamination faster.
This is fascinating. Okay, so we've got a major recall, a dangerous strain of E. coli, and a company trying to figure out what went wrong. But this Wolverine Packing Co. recall isn't an isolated event, right? Didn't we see a bunch of other E. coli outbreaks recently?
You're right. There was the Grimway Farms carrot recall and the problems with onions at McDonald's, all within a pretty short period of time. It makes you wonder if these are just isolated incidents or a sign of a bigger problem with our food system.
Okay, now I'm really starting to get concerned. It sounds like there's a much bigger story here about how complex and vulnerable our food supply chain really is. We can't just ignore these outbreaks and hope they go away. We need to seriously think about how we can make our food system safer and more resilient.
I completely agree. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of food safety. We'll explore the challenges of making sure food is safe in a global food system and discuss what can be done to protect ourselves and our families.
That's where we'll pick up next. We'll be back after a quick break to dive into the world of food safety and see if we can find some solutions to this growing problem. Okay, so we've uncovered some pretty unsettling things about our food system. But before we all freak out and never eat again, let's talk about what we can do to protect ourselves. Because we gotta eat right.
For sure. And while there are some risks, there are also practical steps you can take to really reduce your chances of getting sick from E. coli. The good news is a lot of it is just common sense and good hygiene.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me the tips.
First things first, cook that ground beef all the way through. We're talking 160 degrees Fahrenheit internally. No exceptions.
160 degrees, got it. But how can I be sure it's actually reached that temperature? Just looking at it seems kind of risky, even for someone who cooks a lot like me.
You're right, you can't just rely on what you see. A meat thermometer is going to be your best friend here. It takes out the guesswork and gives you peace of mind.
Meat thermometer, it's like a superpower for safe cooking. What else can we do besides cooking the meat thoroughly?
Preventing cross-contamination is super important. Think about it, you're preparing raw ground beef, which could have bacteria on it, and then you use that same cutting board or knife to chop veggies for a salad that you'll eat raw.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. The bacteria from that raw meat can easily get onto other foods. So always use different cutting boards and utensils for raw meat and everything else. And of course, wash those cutting boards and utensils really well with hot soapy water after you use them.
So it's all about having separate areas in the kitchen, raw meat over here, everything else over there, no mixing allowed.
Precisely. And speaking of cleanliness, let's not forget about hand washing. It seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people forget this simple step.
Hand washing, it's like the original defense against germs. But are we talking just a quick rinse or like a full 20-second scrub?
We're going for the full 20-second scrub with soap and warm water. And make sure you're washing before and after you handle raw meat. It's a small thing that can make a huge difference.
All right, so we've got our cooking temperatures down, we're preventing cross-contamination, and we're washing our hands like surgeons before surgery. What about storing ground beef? Any tips there?
Absolutely. Always put ground beef in the fridge or freezer as soon as possible after you buy it. And when you need to thaw it, do it in the fridge, not on the counter at room temperature.
No, thawing it out on a sunny windowsill. Got it. What about storage times? How long is ground beef good for in the fridge or freezer?
Fresh ground beef can stay in the fridge for 1 to 2 days, and frozen ground beef can last for a few months. But always double check that use by date on the package just to be safe.
Okay, so we've got our safety checklist. Cook to a 160, prevent cross-contamination, wash those hands, and store the ground beef properly. Seems pretty doable, right?
Food safety doesn't have to be super complicated. It's about being aware and taking those extra steps to keep yourself and your family safe.
I like that, empowered to make safe choices. Now, even with all these precautions, is there still a chance we could get sick from E. coli? Or can we finally relax and enjoy that burger?
Well, these steps definitely reduce the risk a lot. But it's important to remember that no system is perfect. Food safety is complicated, and sometimes things can slip through the cracks. That's why it's so important.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You look great. What have you been doing?
I found Zelthy. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe the same active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s for 80 to 90% less without insurance. All of mine shipped right to your door.
Get started with Zelthy today for just $39. Call pound 250 and say keyword CARE. That's CARE to pound 250.
Stay informed about food recalls.
Ah, yes, recalls. They can feel like this endless stream of warnings. Contaminated spinach, recalled peanut butter, the list goes on and on. How can we stay on top of it all without losing our minds?
You're right, it can get overwhelming trying to keep track of every single recall. But luckily, there are good resources to help us stay in the know without being totally bombarded with information. The FSIS website is a great one. They have a whole section for recalls and alerts. You can even sign up for email notifications so you're always up to date.
That's super helpful. Instead of trying to memorize every single recall, we can just rely on trustworthy sources like the FSIS to do the hard work for us. So we've covered the recall E. coli and practical tips for staying safe in the kitchen. But I still have this feeling that this Wolverine Pack and Co. situation is just the beginning. Like it's a symptom of a much bigger issue.
You're onto something there. This recall and all the other recent E. coli outbreaks bring up some big questions about our entire food system.
I think it's time we zoom out and look at the bigger picture of food safety. Because this isn't just about ground beef. It's about figuring out how to ensure the safety of our whole food supply chain.
Exactly. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll get into the complexities of food safety on a global scale and explore some possible solutions to this growing challenge.
Okay, so let's talk big picture here. Multiple E. coli outbreaks in such a short time, it's hard to ignore, right?
Yeah, it is.
So is this just a coincidence, or are we seeing like a pattern here, something more systemic?
That's the question, isn't it? It's hard to say for sure if it's a trend, but it does raise some serious concerns about how vulnerable our modern food supply chain is. It's this complicated web, and that complexity can create weaknesses.
It makes you think like we're so used to just grabbing food from the store or ordering takeout without even thinking about it. But behind all that convenience is this huge network of farms, processing plants, distributors, trucks going all over the country. It's mind-boggling.
It really is. And with each step in that chain, there's a chance for something to go wrong. A mistake with hygiene at a processing plant, a change in temperature during shipping, even improper storage at a restaurant, any of those things can lead to contamination.
So basically, as consumers, we're just trusting this system, hoping that every step has been handled perfectly. That's a little unsettling.
It is, and it shows why transparency and accountability are so important. We need systems that allow us to trace food back to its source. That way we can see exactly where problems happen and hold people accountable for maintaining those safety standards. It's about knowing where our food comes from and feeling confident about how it got to our plates.
That makes sense. But here's what I keep thinking about. How do we balance that need for safety with keeping food affordable and convenient, which is what we're all used to? It feels like we have to choose one or the other.
That's the challenge, isn't it? There's no easy answer. But I think a big part of the solution is giving consumers more information.
What do you mean by that? Like, what would that look like?
Imagine a system where you could scan a package of ground beef at the grocery store and instantly see its whole journey from the farm where the cow was raised to the processing plant and everything in between. Every step documented and easy to access.
Wow, that's amazing. It would be like having a food detective right in your pocket.
Yeah.
But is something like that even possible?
It's not as crazy as it sounds. We're already seeing technology like blockchain being used to track food. Blockchain creates this secure record of every transaction, making it almost impossible to tamper with.
Okay, so maybe in the future we'll be able to scan that package of ground beef and see exactly where it came from, how it was processed, even what temperature it was kept at the whole time. That's incredible.
Exactly. That kind of transparency could completely change food safety. Producers and processors would be much more likely to keep the highest standards, knowing that consumers can see everything they're doing.
That's a hopeful thought. This ground beef recall, as scary as it is, could actually lead to positive changes in the food industry. It's making us all think more about how our food gets to us and demand better systems.
I agree. It reminds us that food safety is an ongoing challenge. And we have to be proactive. We can't just sit back and expect someone else to take care of it. It's a shared responsibility.
Okay, so to wrap things up, if there's one thing you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive, what would it be?
Food safety is a team effort. Producers, processors, regulators, consumers, we all have a part to play by staying informed, taking precautions in our own kitchens, and speaking up for more transparency. We can all work towards a safer and healthier food system for everyone.
Well said. Food is such a fundamental part of our lives, something we all enjoy. It's definitely worth taking the time to understand how it gets to us and doing our part to keep it safe. So to our
All right, let's jump right in, shall we? We're going deep on the Steelers-Browns rivalry today. And judging by the stack of articles you sent, you're definitely ready to go beyond the headlines.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is one of those rivalries, where you can really feel the history.
Yeah, I was just looking through your research here, and wow, you've got some great stuff. Two teams, so geographically close, steeped in tradition.
And the fans, don't even get me started on the fans. They're as much a part of this rivalry as the players themselves.
Speaking of fans, just imagine being in either Pittsburgh or Cleveland after, let's say, that 1957 championship game.
Oh, man, that one was a classic, wasn't it? The Browns just demolished the Steelers 31-7.
Yeah, talk about making a statement. I mean, that really set the tone for the early years of the rivalry, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The Browns, they came into the NFL in 1950, and they were already a powerhouse, coming from a different league where they'd been dominating.
Right. And the Steelers, well, they were still trying to find their footing.
Exactly. And with Paul Brown at the helm and Otto Graham under center, the Browns were just unstoppable in those early days.
It's almost like the Steelers became their favorite punching bag for a while there.
Yeah, kind of like a David and Goliath situation, except Goliath just kept winning and winning.
So we've got this imbalance early on. When do things start to shift? When do the Steelers start pushing back?
Well, things get really interesting in the 1970s. That's when the Steelers really came into their own.
Facial curtain era.
Yeah. With Chuck Noll as their coach, they built a dynasty, winning 4 Super Bowls in just 6 years.
Think about it. Bradshaw, Harris, Swan, those guys became legends.
Exactly. And that's when the rivalry really started to heat up. It became a clash of titans,
Yeah.
2 powerhouse teams going head to head.
I mean, we could spend hours just talking about those classic 70s matchups.
No kidding. So many stories, so many iconic moments.
Well, that's what we're here for, right? To dive deep into those moments. So walk us through a few that really capture the essence of this rivalry.
All right. Let's start with the 1989 wildcard game. It was a back-and-forth battle, down to the wire.
I can already feel the tension.
Oh, yeah. And then, with just seconds left on the clock, the Steelers pulled off a miracle win.
Classic Steelers. Heartbreak for the Browns, but that's what makes this rivalry so great.
For sure. High stakes, high emotions. Now, fast forward to 2002, another wildcard game.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one. The Browns were looking good, had a decent lead going into the fourth quarter, right?
Right. But then the Steelers, they just wouldn't quit. They mounted this incredible comeback and ended up winning 36-33.
Talk about a gut punch for Browns fans.
Oh, it was brutal. One of those games that stays with you,
Absolutely. Okay, so we've had last-minute wins, dramatic comebacks. Is there a moment that really captures the, how do I put it, the raw intensity of this rivalry?
Well, you can't talk about raw intensity without mentioning the 2019 helmet incident. I mean, just look at these photos in your research. It was wild.
Yeah, I was looking at those. Myles Garrett swinging a helmet at Mason Rudolph. I mean, that's something you don't see every day.
Nope, that's definitely not in the rule book. It was one of those moments where everyone just stopped and thought, did that really just happen?
It really exposed just how deep this rivalry runs.
Absolutely. It's more than just a game to these teams.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip, when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Teams and their fans, it's personal.
Okay, so we've talked about the history, the turning points, the moments that define this rivalry.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
But what are the teams themselves? If you had to describe the Steelers' identity, their essence, what would you say?
Well, to me, the Steelers embody that blue-collar, hard-nosed work ethic. They're tough, they're resilient, they find ways to win.
6 Super Bowls, that's not an accident.
Nope, it's a testament to their consistency, their commitment to excellence.
They just keep coming back year after year.
Exactly. And then you have the Browns, a team that's had a much different journey.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They've faced their share of challenges, haven't they?
Definitely. But they've always had this unwavering loyalty from their fans. That's what defines them, I think. Passion, resilience, a never-give-up attitude.
It's that underdog spirit that makes them so compelling.
You got it. They represent a city that's been through tough times, but always finds a way to bounce back.
So we've got these two distinct identities, two cities with so much history. Now let's talk about the players who've come to embody this rivalry. Who are some of the names that immediately spring to mind?
Well, when you think Steelers-Browns, you got to start with Ben Roethlisberger, right?
Big Ben, the Steelers legend.
He was the ultimate villain for Browns fans, a constant thorn in their side. I mean, his record against them was 25-3-1.
Wow, that's dominance. He was a nightmare for them, but a hero in Pittsburgh?
Exactly. And then on the Browns side, you can't forget about Jim Brown.
Jim Brown, arguably the greatest running back of all time.
Absolutely. He was a force of nature, and the Steelers were often on the receiving end of his brilliance.
It's amazing to think about the talent that's been on display in this rivalry over the years.
Yeah, and it's not just the legends, it's the current players, too.
Right. Who else comes to mind for you?
Well, for the Browns, there's Myles Garrett, one of the most dominant defensive players in the game today. He's a symbol of their resurgence, their desire to finally break through and challenge the Steelers.
He's a game changer, that's for sure. What about from the Steelers' perspective?
Well, you can't talk about the Steelers' defense without mentioning Troy Polamalu.
Ah, yes, the human highlight reel.
He was a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks, always making those clutch plays. He really embodies that Steelers' defensive mentality.
Okay, so we've covered the history, the legends, the current stars. But where do we go from here? What's the state of this rivalry today?
Well, things are getting interesting. The Browns, they're on the rise. They finally got a playoff win against the Steelers in 2020, and that's given them a taste of what's possible.
That must have been a huge moment for Browns fans.
Oh, yeah, you could feel the city erupt. But the Steelers, they're not going anywhere.
They still have that championship DNA.
Right. They've got a young quarterback in Kenny Pickett, a ferocious defense, and they're always a threat.
So the Steelers are reloading, the Browns are hungry for more. It feels like we're entering a new chapter in this rivalry.
Absolutely. And with the AFC North becoming so competitive, every game between these two teams is going to have huge implications.
Playoff seeding, bragging rights, maybe even a chance to meet in the postseason again.
Oh man, wouldn't that be something? This rivalry just keeps getting better and better.
Now let's talk about the fans. It's impossible to talk about the Steelers-Browns rivalry without mentioning the fans. They're as much a part of this story as the players themselves, wouldn't you say?
Oh, 100%. The passion, the intensity, it's unmatched. You go to a Steelers-Browns game and you can feel the electricity in the air.
The terrible towel in Pittsburgh, the dog pound in Cleveland, those are iconic symbols of this rivalry.
And it's not just in the stadiums, it's in the streets, in the bars, and the workplaces. This rivalry seeps into every aspect of life in these two cities.
It's like a family feud, but on a massive scale.
Exactly. They're rivals, but there's also a deep respect, a shared understanding of what this rivalry means.
They're connected by geography, by history, by a love for the game that transcends the wins and losses.
Absolutely. It's a rivalry that's built on passion, tradition, and a sense of community that's hard to find anywhere else.
So we've covered the history, the teams, the players, the fans. But what's the future hold for this epic rivalry?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Browns are looking to establish themselves as a consistent contender.
They want to break free from the past and create a new legacy.
Exactly. And the Steelers, they're entering a new era without Ben Roethlisberger. They're trying to prove that they can still compete at the highest level.
So we've got the Browns hungry for success, the Steelers determined to maintain their dominance, and this incredible rivalry as the backdrop.
It's a recipe for some epic battles in the years to come.
Now, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about something that goes beyond the X's and O's. We've talked about the past and the present, but what about the future of this rivalry? How do you see it evolving in the years to come?
That's a great question. I think one of the most interesting things to watch is how the next generation of players and fans will shape this rivalry.
You've got young stars like Kenny Pickett and Mick Chubb who are already making their mark.
Exactly. And they'll be writing their own chapters in this storied rivalry. What legacy will they leave behind? What new traditions will emerge?
It's exciting to think about the possibilities. And it's not just the players, it's the fans too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Social media has definitely amplified things. You see more trash talk, more instant reactions, but you also see this growing sense of community among fans from both sides.
It's almost like they're united by their shared passion for this rivalry, even if they're rooting for different teams.
Exactly. It's a unique dynamic, and it's something that makes this rivalry so compelling.
It's constantly evolving, adapting to the times, but it's always grounded in that rich history.
Absolutely. The Steelers-Browns rivalry, it's more than just a game. It's a story that continues to unfold, and we're all lucky enough to be witnessing it.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's still so much to explore. This rivalry is so rich, so layered, it could keep us talking for hours.
No doubt about it. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. It's a story that keeps giving, full of surprises, heartbreaks, and triumphs.
And as we continue our deep dive, I want you to keep those things in mind.
Think about the history, the players, the moments that have shaped this rivalry.
But also, think about the future. What will the next chapter hold? What new legends will be written into the Steelers-Browns saga?
And most importantly, what role will you play in this ongoing story? You know, one of the things that really struck me was an article that talked about Steelers and Browns fans working side by side in those steel mills and factories.
Oh, I bet. Can you imagine those Monday morning conversations after a game?
Right. I mean, talk about adding fuel to the fire. But, you know, it's not always about animosity. Sometimes it's about respect.
Yeah, acknowledging the other side's passion, even when you're rooting against them.
Exactly. That's what makes a rivalry truly great, wouldn't you say? That underlying respect, that shared history.
Absolutely. It goes beyond just the game itself. It's about community, shared experiences.
Now, looking ahead, there are a few things that could really shake things up. The Browns, they've definitely made some big strides.
But the question is, can they maintain that momentum?
Right. Can they turn those big wins into consistent success? That's the challenge.
One thing I found interesting in your notes was about the Browns' use of analytics. How do you think that's going to play out against the Steelers' more traditional approach?
Oh, that's a great point. It's almost like a philosophical battle playing out on the field. The Browns, they're all about data, crunching the numbers.
Well, the Steelers, they've always been more about that smash-mouth, blue-collar style.
It's a classic clash of styles, and it'll be fascinating to see who comes out on top.
And speaking of clashes, what about the Steelers' transition to a post-Roethlisberger era? How do you see that playing out?
That's the big question mark, isn't it? Kenny Pickett, he's shown potential, but can he fill those shoes?
Those are some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
It's almost like a changing of the guard, not just for the Steelers, but for the rivalry itself.
Yeah, it's a whole new dynamic, but...
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Let's not forget, the Steelers still have that legendary defense.
How do you see that matching up against the Browns' offense with guys like Nick Chubb?
Well, it's going to be strength against strength, that's for sure. The Steelers' defense, they're tough, they're disciplined.
But Chubb, he's one of those explosive running backs in the league.
No doubt about it. And then you've got Myles Garrett on the Browns' defense, a guy who can single-handedly disrupt an offense.
So it's a classic battle of offense versus defense.
And with so much on the line, every snap is going to be intense.
You've got the Browns trying to prove themselves, the Steelers trying to maintain their legacy, and this intense rivalry as the backdrop.
The AFC North is going to be a war zone, and these two teams are right at the center of it.
Every game is going to have major playoff implications.
Bragging rights, playoff seeding, maybe even a chance to meet in the postseason. It's going to be epic.
I want to ask you a question that goes beyond the X's and O's. We've talked about the past and the present, but what about the future? How do you think the next generation of players and fans will shape this rivalry?
Wow, that's a great question. We're already seeing young stars like Kenny Pickett and Nick Chubb leaving their mark.
What kind of legacy will they build?
Right, what new traditions will emerge? It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me in your research was how the fan culture is evolving.
Oh yeah, that's a fascinating aspect. Social media, it's definitely changed the game. There's more trash talk, more instant reaction.
But there's also a growing sense of community among fans from both sides. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
It is. You've got this increased intensity, but also this strange kind of camaraderie. Like they're all part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. And that's what makes this rivalry so compelling. It's constantly evolving, adapting to the times.
But it's always grounded in that rich history.
It's like this rivalry has a life of its own. It's a story that keeps unfolding chapter after chapter.
We're all lucky enough to be a part of it. It really is amazing when you think about it. Over 70 years, this rivalry has just kept going strong.
Dynasties have come and gone. Hall of Famers have retired. But the intensity, it never fades.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me from all the articles was the sense of shared identity. They're rivals, yes, but they also represent the same region.
Yeah, that same hardworking spirit, like two sides of the same coin, you know?
Exactly. And you see that reflected in the fan bases, too.
There's a mutual respect there, even in the heat of the moment.
They get each other, you know? They understand the passion, the history.
It's like they're all part of this bigger story, a story that goes beyond football.
A story about two cities. Their shared experiences, their triumphs and heartbreaks.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Steelers-Browns rivalry, and I have to say, it's been a wild ride.
It really is a rivalry that embodies everything that makes the NFL so great.
The history, the passion, the larger-than-life personalities.
It all comes together in this matchup.
We've covered so much ground today, from the early days of Browns' dominance to the Steelers' dynasty era.
From Jim Brown to Ben Roethlisberger, from iconic moments to the future of the rivalry.
But as we wrap up, I want to bring it back to you, the listener. What stood out to you the most?
Was there a particular story, a moment, or a player that really resonated?
Maybe you have your own memories of this rivalry, tailgating with friends, celebrating victories, or even commiserating after a tough loss.
Whatever your connection to this rivalry may be.
I hope this deep dive has given you a deeper appreciation for its complexity.
For the passion, for the enduring legacy.
Because the Steelers-Browns rivalry, it's more than just football.
It's a reflection of two cities, their shared history, their struggles, and their triumphs.
It's a reminder that even in the fiercest rivalries,
there's often a shared thread of respect, a love for the game that binds us all together.
So the next time you watch a Steelers-Browns game,
remember that you're witnessing more than just a game.
You're witnessing a clash of titans, a battle for bragging rights,
and a testament to the power of sports to bring people together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of the Steelers-Browns rivalry.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning.
And keep the passion for the game alive.
All right, so welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into Chicago PD. I don't know about you, but I am just such a sucker for these gritty police procedurals.
Yeah, they're definitely addictive.
But Chicago PD, I feel like it brings something extra to the table, you know? There's this raw intensity, this willingness to really explore the moral dilemmas of police work, and it's not afraid to get a little messy.
Right, exactly. And I think a big part of what sets it apart is how they use the city of Chicago. It's almost like a character in itself.
Yeah, I was going to say that. You know, you're not just watching cops and robbers in some generic city. You're right there in the thick of it in Chicago.
Right.
With all its history and its complexities. Like, you can feel the weight of the city's social issues pressing down on these characters and their cases. It's almost palpable.
Absolutely. It adds this whole other layer of depth and realism. You know, you get a sense of the different neighborhoods, the different communities. The show's not afraid to tackle things like gang violence and corruption, issues that are really rooted in the fabric of the city.
Exactly. Okay, but let's talk about the heart of the show, the intelligence unit. So for anyone who's not familiar with police lingo, this is basically a specialized team that focuses on, like, the really big stuff, organized crime, drug trafficking, major cases. And at the helm of this unit, you have Sergeant Hank Voigt, a character who is about as complex as the city itself. I mean, talk about contradictions.
Right. He is like the epitome of that whole morally gray area. I mean, he is dedicated to justice. Like, there's no question about that. But his methods.
Oh, boy.
He's willing to push the boundaries. Let's just say that. I mean, in one episode, and this is just one example, he actually plants evidence on a suspect to ensure a conviction. I mean, talk about crossing the line.
Whoa, that is intense. I mean, that's got to create some serious tension within the unit.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where you get characters like Detective Jay Holstead. Now, Holstead's a former Army Ranger, so he's got this strong moral compass. He's constantly bumping heads with Voigt, arguing that their job is to uphold the law, not to become vigilantes.
I mean, it's going to be tough, right? to work under someone like Voight and try to reconcile those two sides of the job. And then you've got Haley Upton, another strong personality on the team.
Oh, yeah, Upton. She's a fascinating character. Initially, she's kind of drawn to Voight's effectiveness. He gets results. But as she spends more time in the unit, she starts to question the long-term consequences of his actions. She sees how his methods can sometimes do more harm than good.
And then you've got the rest of the team, like Kim Burgess, Adam Rusek, and Kevin Atwater. And it's so interesting how each of them brings their own unique perspectives and experiences to the table, right? I mean, speaking of Atwater, I was really struck by how the show uses his character, being a Black officer, to really delve into the complexities of race and policing.
Oh, for sure. His storyline offers a really powerful lens into the challenges that minority officers face. Dealing with prejudice from both sides, having to navigate a system that's often stacked against them, and facing the distrust of the very communities they're trying to protect.
Right. It's like he's caught in this constant push and pull.
Exactly. And there's this one episode that really stands out where he goes undercover in a gang-ridden neighborhood, and the tension is just so thick. You can just feel the weight of his situation, trying to balance his duty as an officer with his own personal identity and his understanding of the community he comes from. It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a lot to think about. And I think that's what makes Chicago PD so much more than just a cop show,
Right. It really digs deeper.
It's not afraid to tackle these difficult and uncomfortable topics.
Exactly. And it really gets you thinking about the human impact of all this crime.
Oh, totally.
Right.
It's not just about catching the bag.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Guys, it's about understanding the toll that it takes on everyone involved, the victims, the officers, and even the perpetrator sometimes.
Right. And that's something that Chicago PD does really well. It explores that psychological impact. It shows how the trauma these characters experience both on and off the job can really mess them up.
Yeah, for sure. Remember that episode with Haley Upton when she was struggling with PTSD after that undercover operation?
Oh, yeah. That was a heavy one. It really showed how the writers aren't afraid to delve into those darker aspects of police work. The stuff that most shows kind of gloss over.
Exactly. And it's not just Upton. You see it with other characters, too, like Kim Burgess. She's been through so much, and it's definitely left its mark on her.
And you can't forget about the relationships between the characters, too. All that interpersonal drama adds another layer to the whole thing.
Oh, totally. You've got Burgess and Rusek. They're on again, off again thing. It's like a constant roller coaster. And then there's Halstead and Upton.
Yeah.
Their relationship is super complicated, especially with all the tension between Halstead and Voight.
Right, because it's not just romantic. It's about loyalty and trust and how far you're willing to go for the people you care about.
It definitely makes you think about where you would draw the line. If you were in their shoes, would you compromise your own ethics to protect someone you love? Or would you stand up for what you believe in, even if it meant losing everything?
Those are the tough questions that Chicago PD forces you to ask yourself. And I think that's what makes it so compelling. It's not afraid to get real.
It's like you're constantly trying to figure out whose side you're on. Because everyone has their own motivations, their own reasons for doing what they do.
And those reasons aren't always clear-cut. It's not always black and white. There's so much gray area.
Which I think is a reflection of real life. Things are rarely simple. There's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Exactly. And that's what makes Chicago PD so relatable.
Right.
It's not just about cops and robbers.
Yeah.
It's about human nature.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, but speaking of expanding the world of the show, we can't forget about the whole Chicago universe thing.
Oh, yeah. The crossovers.
But at first, I have to admit, I was a little skeptical. I thought it might feel kind of gimmicky, but honestly, they've pulled it off really well.
They totally have. It's not just like random cameos or anything. The crossovers actually make sense from a storytelling perspective.
Right. It's like you get these cases that naturally span across multiple departments, like that time when there was a massive fire on Chicago Fire, and then it led to the intelligence unit uncovering this whole criminal conspiracy on Chicago PD.
And then all the victims ended up at Chicago Med. It's like this whole interconnected web.
Exactly. It really shows how everything is connected. One event can have ripple effects across the entire city.
And it gives you a deeper understanding of how these different departments have to work together.
Yeah.
They don't always see eye to eye, but they have to find a way to collaborate to get the job done.
And let's be real, it's just fun to see those characters interact, you know? It's like getting a bonus episode when you get those crossover moments.
Totally. It adds a whole other layer to the viewing experience.
So yeah, I think the crossovers are a brilliant move, and they definitely set Chicago PD apart from other police procedurals.
For sure. But even beyond the crossovers, I think what really makes this show stand out is its willingness to challenge the audience. It doesn't shy away from the tough questions, the ethical dilemmas, the uncomfortable realities of law enforcement in a city like Chicago.
Totally. It makes you think about things in a different way.
It does. It's not just entertainment.
Yeah.
It's thought-provoking. It's engaging. It's a show that stays with you long after you've finished watching it.
It really makes you question, is it all worth it? Are those compromises, those morally gray areas, ultimately doing more harm than good?
Right. And I think that's a question that hangs over the entire show, It's like this constant tension between achieving justice and the methods used to get there.
Totally. Remember that episode where Voight covers up one of his team's mistakes?
Oh, yeah, that one was a doozy.
And it ends up, spiraling out of control and leading to this huge gang war.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
One bad decision leads to another, and before you know it, things have escalated to a whole other level.
And it makes you think about accountability, right? Who's ultimately responsible for the consequences?
Is it Voight for creating this culture where the ends justify the means? Or is it the individual officers who make those choices in the heat of the moment?
It's a tough one for sure. And I think the show does a really good job of not giving us any easy answers.
It leaves it up to the viewer to decide, where do you draw the line? What compromises are you willing to make?
And I think that's what makes Chicago PD so compelling. It's not just about entertainment. It's about sparking a conversation, about making us think critically about the world around us.
Absolutely. It's a show that really gets under your skin. It's not always easy to watch, but it's definitely hard to look away.
And I think a big part of that is the characters. They're so well developed and so relatable.
Yeah. You really feel like you know them, like you're right there with them going through all the ups and downs.
And even though they're cops, they're still human. They make mistakes, they have flaws, they struggle with their own personal demons.
Which makes them all the more interesting, right? Because they're not these perfect heroes. They're just trying to do their best at a really tough job.
Exactly. And I think the show does a great job of showing the toll that this job takes on them, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah. It's not all car chases and shootouts.
Yeah.
It's about the long hours, the paperwork, the emotional baggage that comes with dealing with crime and violence day in and day out.
And then you add in the whole Chicago backdrop and it just amplifies everything.
Oh, totally. The city is like a character in itself.
It's gritty.
Yeah.
It's real. It's got this energy that you can't really find anywhere else.
And the show really captures that. It's not just some generic city. It's Chicago.
Yeah.
With all its history and its complexities.
So, yeah, I think it's safe to say that Chicago PD is much more than just another cop drama.
It really is. It's a show that makes you think. It makes you feel. And it definitely leaves a lasting impression.
So if you're looking for a show that's going to challenge you, entertain you, and maybe even keep you up at night, I highly recommend checking out Chicago PD.
You won't regret it.
And that's it for this deep dive into the world of Chicago PD.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time. All right, so we've got this Bengals and Giants game, right? And it's not just another game. Over 2 million Google searches. People were all over this one.
Yeah, definitely not your average Sunday showdown.
It felt like everyone was glued to their screens, and I'm thinking a lot of it, well, it had to be the fantasy football factor, right?
Oh, absolutely. This game was a fantasy gold mine. You've got Burrow, you've got Chase, Barkley, Mixon. I mean, talk about a fantasy owner's dream team.
And that LSU connection, Burrow and Chase, you can't talk about this game without mentioning that.
It's like they were back on the bayou, making magic happen. That 50-yard touchdown, pure poetry in motion.
Seriously, you could see that chemistry. Those two, it's like they've got this whole unspoken language on the field.
Absolutely. But while those highlight plays get all the buzz, let's not forget about Burrow's overall performance. 330 yards, 3 touchdowns. The guy was a machine. The article even uses the word dissected to describe how he picked apart the Giants' defense, and I think that's spot on.
Dissected. That's a good way to put it. He was like a surgeon out there, just picking them apart piece by piece. But even the best surgeons need a good support team, right? And that's where Joe Mixon comes in.
You got it. Mixon might not have had the flashiest numbers, but 95 rushing yards. That's huge for keeping the defense honest.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just focus on the air attack. You got to keep those linebackers guessing. It's all about balance.
100%. A balanced offense makes life so much easier for the quarterback, especially when you're facing a tough defense like the Giants.
Speaking of the Giants, let's talk about Daniel Jones. Bit of a mixed bag for him, right?
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Some good moments, some head scratchers.
It's funny, the article calls him a polarizing figure, and I think that sums it up perfectly. He had that 1 touchdown pass, which was nice, but then those 2 interceptions, especially that one in the red zone, ouch.
Yeah, those red zone turnovers, those will kill you. You're so close, and then bam, momentum shifter.
Exactly. And you just knew going into this game with Colbarn Barkley in the backfield that the Giants were going to try to establish the run game.
Park Barkley, he's usually good for a highlight reel play or 2 every game. Did the Bengals just completely shut him down?
They did a pretty good job containing him. 57 rushing yards, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not Barkley at his best.
Yeah, I bet some fantasy owners were sweating that one out. He's usually such a sure thing. So the Bengals defense, they really stepped up in this one, huh? Sounds like a good day for the Bengals, D. Who were some of those guys, really making plays out there?
Well, Jesse Bates III, he was all over the field. 10 tackles, an interception. It was impressive.
Wow, 10 tackles from a safety. That's getting it done.
He was everywhere. And then you've got Logan Wilson right alongside him. 8 tackles, a sack. Talk about a defensive 1-2 punch.
A 1-2 punch, I like that. Those two were everywhere. But hey, even in a loss, the Giants had some bright spots on defense too, right? I mean, you can't shut down a team like the Bengals without some fight.
You're right about that. No easy wins in this league. The article pointed to Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. Those guys were tough. Williams had 6 tackles and a sack. And Lawrence, man, he was a disruptive force. Remember that play in the second quarter where he just blew through the line and almost sacked Burrow?
Oh, yeah. Burrow had to get rid of that ball quick. Pressure like that can really rattle a quarterback.
No doubt. And in a game like this, where the offenses are putting up points like it's going out of style, you know what else becomes crucial?
What's that?
The kicking game.
Ah, yes. You can't forget about the kickers, those unsung heroes sometimes.
Exactly. And Evan McPherson, for the Bengals, he was money. Perfect on field goals, even nailed one from 52 yards out.
52 yards? Those long ones always make me nervous. But seriously, in a tight game, those field goals, they're like gold.
Absolutely. Each kick carries so much weight. And it shows how important it is to have a reliable kicker, someone you can count on when the pressure's on.
For sure, for sure. So we've talked about the big plays, the defensive struggles, the kicking game, but we got to come back to what kicked off this whole deep dive in the first place, those millions of Google searches.
Right. It wasn't just the diehard fans tuning in for this one.
It was fantasy football taking center stage. I mean, think about it. You've got Burrow, Chase, Barkley, Mixon, all fantasy superstars, all in one game. Every touchdown, every yard game, it was like a fantasy roller coaster.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
This game had it all for fantasy owners. The highs, the lows, the nail-biting finishes.
It definitely added another layer of excitement to the whole thing. You're not just watching a game, you're living and dying with every play. It's a whole different ball game, literally. It's wild how fantasy football just sucks you in, right? You're living and dying by every yard, every catch, every fumble. It's like the stakes are even higher.
Oh, 100%. And it makes you realize there's so much more to a game than just the final score. You've got all these individual stories playing out on the field, all these little battles within the bigger war.
It's like watching a movie, almost. But this Bengals and Giants matchup, I mean, it wasn't just about the fantasy points. This one felt different. What do you think? What made this game stand out?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. It's those narratives, right? You've got the Bengals, this high-powered offense, everyone expecting fireworks.
Right, and then the Giants, they came in with something to prove, trying to silence the doubters.
Exactly. And within that, you've got Daniel Jones still trying to find his groove, battling those inconsistencies. Bronco Barkley facing down that Bengals defense, trying to break free. It's those individual journeys that add another level of drama.
Totally. And we can't forget the coaches. I mean, they're like generals out there calling the plays, making adjustments on the fly. It's a mental game, too.
Absolutely. And that's what makes football so fascinating. It's not just about who's bigger or faster. It's about who can outsmart, who can outmaneuver, who can adapt.
So next time we're watching a game, you know, and we're glued to our fantasy scores, maybe we take a minute to appreciate all the layers, right? The strategy, the individual stories, all that good stuff.
100%. Because it's those hidden layers that really make this sport so captivating.
Absolutely. Well said. And there you have it, folks. Another deep dive in the books. Until next time, keep your eyes on the game. And remember, it's not always about the final score. It's about the stories unfolding on the field, the battles won and lost, and the moments that leave us speechless. You know that clock change we all deal with twice a year?
Yeah.
Well, today's deep dive is all about that, daylight saving time.
Oh, fun.
We're going to unpack the history.
Okay.
Look at the arguments for and against it, and even see what the future might hold for this whole time-bending practice.
Sound good.
It's fascinating, really.
It is.
How something as simple as changing the clock an hour can be so debated.
Right.
And even raise questions about, like, our whole relationship with time.
Absolutely.
So, to start, a bit of a history lesson.
Okay.
You might be surprised to learn that messing with time to line up with daylight, it isn't actually a new thing.
It's not.
The ancient Romans, believe it or not, had their own version of DST.
No way.
They used water clocks with different scales for the different months.
Oh, interesting.
To keep up with those changing daylight hours.
Right.
But the modern push for DST, that began in the late 19th, early 20th centuries.
Gotcha.
There we meet George Hudson. He was a New Zealand entomologist.
Okay.
Who back in 1895 proposed, you know, shifting the clocks. So he'd have more daylight to collect bugs.
Wow. Talk about dedication.
I know. And then there's William Willett in Britain.
Okay.
In 1907, published a pamphlet.
Oh, yeah.
Called The Waste of Daylight.
Love the title.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He wanted more evening daylight for, you know, leisure.
Of course.
He actually spent years, though, trying to convince Parliament to go for it. But, you know, a bit ahead of his time, it seems.
Yeah.
It took a global crisis to really get DST onto the world stage, it looks like. World War I.
Okay.
Saving energy, top priority all of a sudden.
Makes sense.
And DST was a way to cut back on artificial light.
Oh, great.
Save fuel for the war effort.
Yeah.
It was wartime back then.
Interesting how crisis can speed things up, huh?
Totally. Like necessity, the mother of invention. Right.
Sure.
So let's zoom in on the U.S. How'd DST roll out here? Not so smooth, huh?
You can imagine a country where every town's got its own DST.
Oh, my God.
Or no DST at all. Chaos for businesses.
Yeah.
For transportation.
You can't even imagine.
Try running a railroad like that.
Nightmare.
Totally. Missed connections, confusion everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we got the Uniform Time Act of 1966.
Okay.
Standardize it across the country.
Makes sense.
Specific dates first, bringing forward, falling back.
Okay, so order it last.
Well, some states, they went their own way, opted out.
Oh, right. Like Arizona, Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then 2005, the Energy Policy Act, that extended DST, didn't it?
It did. Pushed the start to March and to November.
So the big question.
What's that?
Is DST even a good idea?
Yes.
To answer that, we got to play judge and jury, weigh the evidence.
Let's head to court then.
Okay, first up.
All right.
The prosecution arguing for DST.
Okay.
Their star witness, energy conservation.
Right, the classic argument.
More daylight, less need for lights.
Mm-hmm.
Less energy use. Simple, right?
Seems like it, but the defense is ready for this.
So
modern research suggests those savings might not be so big anymore.
How so?
Well, energy use patterns.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
They've changed a lot since DST first came about.
So the old justification might be what, outdated?
Could be.
What else do DST fans say?
Well, they argue that DST can boost the economy.
Okay, how?
More daylight in the evening. Think about it.
Yeah.
More time for shopping, dining out, all that outdoor fun.
Makes sense.
More money for businesses.
Right.
Especially those in retail and tourism.
Yeah.
Some studies show retail sales jumped like 5% during DST.
Wow, so more daylight, more fun, more spending.
That's the idea.
Okay, what about public safety?
Yes.
Any impact there?
Proponents of DST often point to studies showing better visibility during the day. Could mean fewer traffic accidents.
Okay, yeah.
Plus, there's some evidence linking DST to lower crime rates, too.
Really?
Yeah. The idea is more daylight equals safer streets.
Interesting. So potential economic benefits, maybe safer communities, and of course the whole health and well-being angle.
Right.
DST supporters often say that extended daylight, it gets people outside, more active, which is good for us, both physically and mentally, right?
Absolutely.
So the prosecution's made a pretty strong case for DST.
They have.
Highlighted, the potential benefits, economy, safety, our well-being.
Yeah.
But now it's the defense's turn.
All right, what do they got?
What are their arguments against DST?
Their main point revolves around our biological clocks.
Our what?
Our circadian rhythms.
Okay.
Body's internal timekeepers.
Right.
Regulating our sleep-wake cycles and other key functions.
And that spring forward, oh, man.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's like mini jet lag every year.
Fair out, right.
I'm always groggy for days, sometimes weeks after.
Yeah.
Like my body's just protesting.
Yeah, it's not just feeling tired, though. This disruption, this misalignment with our rhythms could have all sorts of negative effects.
Oh, no. Like what?
Well, for one, it can lead to sleep deprivation, fatigue.
Thanks, sir.
People struggle to adjust their sleep schedules.
Yeah.
End up with less sleep, poorer quality sleep.
Yeah.
And then that sleep deprivation, it affects your thinking.
Oh, right.
Harder to concentrate, focus, make decisions.
Brain's running on fumes.
Exactly.
It's not good.
And here's the kicker.
What?
Studies show a 10% jump in heart attacks the week after spring forward.
Wow, that's scary.
It is a bit alarming.
Makes you think twice about that extra hour of daylight.
It does raise questions about the risks, for sure.
And not just heart attacks, right?
You're right. Some studies also link DST to more mental health issues.
Really?
Like depression and anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Messes with your sleep, your hormones. Right. They can really hit your mental well-being.
It's wild how much our internal clocks affect everything.
It is.
So sleep disruption, possible heart problems, mental health concerns.
Yeah.
Anything else the defense has.
Oh, they're not done. Remember that energy conservation argument?
Yeah, the prosecution's big one.
Well, turns out the evidence for big energy savings, it's mixed.
Okay.
Actually, some studies show DST might even increase energy use in some places.
Wait, how does that even work?
It's about how we use energy now. Dark mornings,
Yeah.
people use more lights, heating.
Right.
Hot summer evenings, that extra daylight.
Yeah.
More AC.
Oh, I see.
So depending on the climate, the energy habits,
Yeah.
DST could actually use more energy overall.
Huh. So the very argument for DST might not be true anymore.
It's a possibility.
That's a big hit to the prosecution's case. What about the economic benefits? We heard it can be good for some businesses.
True, but the defense says those benefits might be balanced out by costs elsewhere.
Like where?
Agriculture, for example.
Okay.
They say DST messes with planting and harvesting schedules. And, livestock.
Right. They don't care about clocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cows, lots of farm animals, creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Milked, fed at a certain time.
Yeah.
Based on the sun. Changing that routine.
Yeah.
It can really mess with milk production.
Oh, wow.
Their health overall.
It's a good point. DST's impact, it's not the same for everyone.
Exactly.
What helps one group might hurt another.
Absolutely.
And that's something, policymakers, they got to think about that carefully.
For sure.
Okay, so the defense has countered well.
They have.
Highlighted risks to health, the questionable energy saving, economic downsides for some. Anything else before closing arguments?
One more thing.
Okay.
They also want to mention that while DST might boost some parts of the economy,
right,
it could actually lower overall productivity.
Huh. How so?
Those sleep disruptions.
Yeah.
They can lead to fatigue, which then leads to lower productivity.
Oh, yeah. At work, school, everywhere.
Exactly. And potentially more people missing work or school due to health issues.
Right, because of the time change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So DST might give a little boost to some areas.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it could hurt productivity overall.
So the jury's got a lot to think about.
For sure.
We've heard strong arguments on both sides.
It's a tough one.
What stands out to you so far?
What I find really interesting is how many of the arguments, both for and against DST, they rely on ideas that might not be true anymore. Or, might not apply everywhere.
Right, like what?
Like energy conservation.
Yeah.
We've held on to that as a main reason for DST.
Right.
But the evidence is showing that it's much more complicated than that. And the economic benefits, they're real for some.
Yeah.
But they could be balanced out by hidden costs elsewhere. It's like this whole DST debate makes us face the complexity of time itself.
Yeah.
How we measure it, how it affects us.
Right.
And how, as we learn more, our understanding of it changes.
It's not just about gaining or losing an hour of daylight, really.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's about how we see time.
Yeah.
How we organize our days, our lives.
Absolutely. And speaking of how we organize time, let's look at how different parts of the world handle this whole DST thing.
Right. Let's broaden our view. See how different countries are wrestling with these same questions.
It's like a global patchwork of approaches.
A patchwork of time.
Exactly.
So we're back, diving deeper into daylight saving time.
Back at it.
Before the break, we were about to hop around the globe.
That's right.
See how different countries tackle DST? It's like a worldwide mix of time zones and clock changing.
A real patchwork.
Where should we start our tour?
Let's head over to Europe.
Okay.
They call it summertime over there. Their schedule is a lot like the U.S., actually.
Yeah.
Clocks forward on the last Sunday in March, back on the last Sunday in October.
Okay, sounds familiar.
But here's the twist.
What's that?
A few years ago, 2019, the European Parliament, they voted to get rid of DST.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Completely ditch the clock changes.
That was the plan.
So no more springing forward, no more falling back.
Exactly. Each EU country would decide, stick with permanent summertime or go back to standard time year-round.
Interesting.
But, well, you know how it is with time.
Yeah.
It's gotten complicated.
Of course.
The whole thing's been delayed.
Okay.
So the future of DST in Europe, it's still kind of up in the air.
Even ending DST is tricky.
It seems that way.
So while Europe figures that out, what about places near the equator?
Yeah.
They don't even mess with DST, right?
You got it.
Why is that?
It's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Being closer to the equator, their daylight hours, they're pretty consistent year-round.
Ah, so they don't have those big shifts in sunrise and sunset like we do.
Exactly.
Shifting the clock wouldn't do much for them.
Not really. No need to fix what ain't broken, right?
Exactly. Any other interesting DST situations around the world?
Oh, definitely. Australia's a good one.
Okay.
They've got time differences within the country.
Wait, seriously?
Yep. Some states use DST, others don't.
Wow. That's going to be confusing.
Yeah, imagine scheduling a meeting across state lines.
It's a logistical nightmare.
It really highlights, how different places approach DST.
It really does. Okay, so we've covered the history, debated the pros and cons, taken a quick world tour.
A whirlwind tour.
So what does this all mean for the future of DST?
Good question.
Will it fade away?
Yeah.
Or is it here to stay?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And as we've seen, there's no simple answer.
No, not at all.
The evidence for DST's benefits, it's not as clear as it used to be. We're learning more about those circadian rhythms, how important they are, the risks of messing with them, and that whole energy-saving argument.
That's a sick one.
It might not even hold true anymore.
So are we heading toward a world without DST?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
In the U.S., the debates really heated up.
Okay.
Remember back in 2022, the U.S. Senate, they passed the Sunshine Protection Act.
Oh, right. Remind me what that was all about.
It basically proposed making DST permanent across the U.S.
Okay.
No more switching back and forth, just year-round DST.
So saying goodbye to standard time.
That was the idea.
Huh.
But then it hit a snag in the House of Representatives.
Oh, what happened?
It's been stalled ever since. Not enough political will to get it through.
Wow. It's amazing how something as simple as changing the clocks, it can get so political.
It really is.
It shows you the power of tradition, the influence of different groups, and just how hard it is to make changes, even when, there's evidence to back them up.
Absolutely.
And it's not just at the federal level, right?
No.
Some states have taken things into their own hands.
You're right.
With the whole DST thing.
Yeah, places like California, Washington, Florida.
Okay.
They've passed laws that would let them make DST permanent if federal law allows.
Interesting. So they're ready if Congress gives the green light.
Basically, yeah.
So we could end up with some parts of the U.S. on DST all year, others on standard time.
Could happen.
Yeah.
That's confusing, like a time zone puzzle.
It would be. It really shows you this issue, it's complex.
Yeah. No easy answers.
Not really.
So what can we, the regular people living through this, what can we do?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Okay.
Have these conversations, make our voices heard.
Yeah.
Look at the evidence, the impact on our health, the economy, our lives. Then, speak up for the time system we think is best.
Whether that's sticking with the changes, getting rid of DST, or going permanent.
It's a decision that affects us all.
It really does.
Through all this talk about DST, it's hit me. This goes beyond just springing forward or falling back.
It does, doesn't it?
It makes us think about our whole relationship with time.
That's a great point. And that's actually where we're heading next.
Really?
We're going to shift gears from the practical stuff to the more philosophical.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're going to explore what this DST debate tells us about how we see time, how we try to control it, and what it means for the future of, how we keep time.
Oh, wow, this is getting deep.
Buckle up.
All right, we're back.
We are.
Final part of our deep dive on daylight saving time.
That's right.
We've gone through the history, the arguments, different views around the world. Now, time to get a little philosophical.
I like it.
You said earlier that the DST debate, it shows something deeper about how we relate to time.
It really does.
So, tell me more.
Well, think about it. This whole DST thing,
Yeah.
it makes us think about some really basic questions.
Yeah.
Like, how do we even understand time as humans?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we try to organize it?
Right.
For centuries, we lived by the sun, right?
Yeah.
Sunrise, sunset. That's what set the rhythm of everything.
It's true.
But then societies got more complex.
Right.
We needed more precise ways to measure time.
So that's where time zones and clocks come in.
Exactly. We had to sync up our activities,
Yeah.
coordinate across distances.
Keep those trains running on time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then here comes DST.
Okay.
This attempt to manipulate time.
Right.
to get what we want, more daylight, save energy, boost the economy.
It messes with our neat timekeeping system.
It does.
Yeah.
It's this tension between our need to control and the fact that, well, time just keeps going.
We can change our clocks, but we can't actually change time.
Exactly.
It just marches on.
And the DST debate,
Yeah.
it brings those big questions to the forefront.
Like what?
Is time a fixed thing, or is it more flexible? Should we follow the sun's natural rhythm?
Yeah.
Or should we even try to bend time to our will?
It's amazing we started with changing the clocks.
I know, right?
Now we're talking about the very nature of time.
That's what I love about these deep dives.
So as we wrap up this DST exploration, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I want them to see that time isn't just about clocks and schedules.
Right.
It's this fundamental part of being human. It shapes how we experience things, our health, everything.
It really does.
This DST debate, it shows us that our relationship with time, it's complex, it's always changing.
Okay.
As we learn more about ourselves, about the world, we're going to be open to questioning what we think we know about time.
Okay.
Rethinking how we do things.
Yeah.
And maybe even changing our timekeeping system so they actually work for us.
I like that. It's about being aware,
Yeah.
mindful of how we experience time.
Totally.
Maybe this deep dive got people thinking, made them more curious about time in their own lives.
That would be great.
And what it all means.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll look back at DST as like this weird thing we tried, this attempt to control something we couldn't really control.
It's a thought-provoking way to end our time journey.
I think so.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into daylight saving time.
It's been fun.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, hope you learned something.
We'll be back with another deep dive soon,
Relax.
uncovering more fascinating topics.
Lots to explore out there.
Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, time might fly, but knowledge lasts.
That's the truth.
You know that clock change we all deal with twice a year?
Yeah.
Well, today's deep dive is all about that, daylight saving time.
Oh, fun.
We're going to unpack the history.
Okay.
Look at the arguments for and against it, and even see what the future might hold for this whole time-bending practice.
Sound good.
It's fascinating, really.
It is.
How something as simple as changing the clock an hour can be so debated.
Right.
And even raise questions about, our whole relationship with time.
Absolutely.
So, to start, a bit of a history lesson.
Okay.
You might be surprised to learn that messing with time to line up with daylight, it isn't actually a new thing.
It's not.
The ancient Romans, believe it or not, had their own version of DST.
No way.
They used water clocks with different scales for the different months
Oh, interesting.
to keep up with those changing daylight hours.
Proper.
But the modern push for DST, that began in the late 19th, early 20th centuries.
Gotcha.
There we meet George Hudson. He was a New Zealand entomologist
Okay.
who, back in 1895, proposed, shifting the clocks. So he'd have more daylight to collect bugs.
Wow. Talk about dedication.
I know. And then there's William Willett in Britain.
Okay.
In 1907, published a pamphlet
Oh, yeah.
called The Waste.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Of daylight.
Love the title.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He wanted more evening daylight for, leisure.
Of course.
He actually spent years, though, trying to convince Parliament to go for it. But, a bit ahead of his time, it seems.
Yeah.
It took a global crisis to really get DST onto the world stage, it looks like. World War I.
Okay.
Saving energy, top priority all of a sudden.
Makes sense.
And DST was a way to cut back on artificial light.
Oh, great.
Save fuel for the war effort.
Yeah, yeah.
It was wartime back then.
Interesting how crisis can speed things up, huh?
Totally. Like necessity, the mother of invention. Right.
Sure.
So let's zoom in on the U.S. How'd DST roll out here? Not so smooth, huh?
You can imagine a country where every town's got its own DST.
Oh, my God.
Or no DST at all.
Ugh.
Chaos for businesses,
Yeah.
for transportation.
You can't even imagine.
Try running a railroad like that.
Nightmare.
Totally. Missed connections, confusion everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we got the Uniform Time Act of 1966.
Okay.
Standardize it across the country.
Makes sense.
Specific dates first, bringing forward, falling back.
Okay, so order it last.
Well, some states, they went their own way, opted out.
Oh, right. Like Arizona, Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then 2005, the Energy Policy Act, that extended DST, didn't it?
It did. Pushed the start to March, end to November.
So the big question.
What's that?
Is DST even a good idea?
Yes.
To answer that,
Oh,
we got to play judge and jury, weigh the evidence.
let's head to court then.
Okay, first up,
All right.
the prosecution arguing for DST.
Okay.
Their star witness, energy conservation.
Right. The classic argument.
More daylight, less need for lights.
Mm-hmm.
Less energy use. Simple, right?
Seems like it, but
But
the defense is ready for this.
so,
Modern research suggests those savings might not be so big anymore.
how so?
Well, energy use patterns, they've changed a lot since DST first came about.
Ah, so the old justification might be what, outdated?
Could be.
What else do DST fans say?
Well, they argue that DST can boost the economy.
Okay, how?
More daylight in the evening. Think about it.
Yeah.
More time for shopping,
Yeah.
dining out, all that outdoor fun.
Makes sense.
More money for businesses,
Right.
especially those in retail and tourism.
Yeah.
Some studies show retail sales jumped like 5% during DST.
Wow, so more daylight, more fun, more spending.
That's the idea.
Okay, what about public safety?
Yes.
Any impact there?
Proponents of DST often point to studies
Okay.
showing better visibility during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Could mean fewer traffic accidents.
Okay, yeah.
Plus, there's some evidence linking DST to lower crime rates, too.
Really?
Yeah. The idea is more daylight equals safer streets.
Interesting. So potential economic benefits, maybe safer communities,
Right.
and of course the whole health and well-being angle.
Right.
DST supporters often say that extended daylight, it gets people outside, more active,
Yeah.
which is good for us, both physically and mentally, right?
Absolutely.
So the prosecution's made a pretty strong case for DST.
They have.
Highlighted, the potential benefits, economy, safety, our well-being.
Yeah.
But now it's the defense's turn.
All right, what do they got?
What are their arguments against DST?
Their main point revolves around our biological clocks,
Our what?
our circadian rhythms,
Okay.
body's internal timekeepers,
Right.
regulating our sleep-wake cycles and other key functions.
And that spring forward, oh, man.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's like mini jet lag every year.
Fair out, right?
I'm always groggy for days, sometimes weeks after.
Yeah.
Like my body's just protesting.
Yeah, it's not just feeling tired, though.
Oh.
This disruption, this misalignment with our rhythms could have all sorts of negative effects.
Oh, no. Like what?
Well, for one, it can lead to sleep deprivation, fatigue.
Thanks, sir.
People struggle to adjust their sleep schedules,
Yeah.
end up with less sleep, poorer quality sleep.
Yeah.
And then that sleep deprivation,
Yeah.
it affects your thinking.
Oh, right.
Harder to concentrate, focus,
Yeah,
make
it's our
decisions.
Brain's running on fumes.
Exactly.
It's not good.
And here's the kicker.
What?
Studies show a 10% jump in heart attacks the week after spring forward.
Wow, that's scary.
It is a bit alarming.
Makes you think twice about that extra hour of daylight.
It does raise questions about the risks, for sure.
And not just heart attacks, right?
You're right. Some studies also link DST to more mental health issues.
Really?
Like depression and anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Messes with your sleep, your hormones. It can really hit your mental well-being.
It's wild how much our internal clocks affect everything.
It is.
So sleep disruption, possible heart problems, mental health concerns.
Yeah.
Anything else the defense has.
Oh, they're not done. Remember that energy conservation argument?
Yeah, the prosecution's big one.
Well, turns out the evidence for big energy savings, it's mixed.
Okay.
Actually, some studies show DST might even increase energy use in some places.
Wait, how does that even work?
It's about how we use energy now. Dark mornings,
Yeah.
people use more lights, heating,
Right.
hot summer evenings, that extra daylight,
Yeah.
more AC.
Oh, I see.
So depending on the climate, the energy habits.
Yeah.
DST could actually use more energy overall.
Huh. So the very argument for DST might not be true anymore.
It's a possibility.
That's a big hit to the prosecution's case. What about the economic benefits? We heard it can be good for some businesses.
True, but the defense says those benefits might be balanced out by costs elsewhere.
Like where?
Agriculture, for example.
Okay.
They say DST messes with planting and harvesting schedules. And, livestock.
Right. They don't care about clocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cows, lots of farm animals, creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Milked, fed at a certain time.
Yeah.
Based on the sun. Changing that routine.
Yeah.
It can really mess with milk production.
Oh, wow.
Their health overall.
It's a good point. DST's impact, it's not the same for everyone.
Exactly.
What helps one group might hurt another.
Absolutely.
And that's something, policymakers, they got to think about that carefully.
For sure.
Okay, so the defense has countered well.
They have.
Highlighted risks to health, the questionable energy saving, economic downsides for some. Anything else before closing arguments?
One more thing.
Okay.
They also want to mention that while DST might boost some parts of the economy,
right,
it could actually lower overall productivity.
Huh. How so?
Those sleep disruptions.
Yeah.
They can lead to fatigue, which then leads to lower productivity.
Oh, yeah. At work, school, everywhere.
Exactly. And potentially more people missing work or school due to health issues.
Right, because of the time change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So DST might give a little boost to some areas.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it could hurt productivity overall.
So the jury's got a lot to think about.
For sure.
We've heard strong arguments on both sides.
It's a tough one.
What stands out to you so far?
What I find really interesting is how many of the arguments, both for and against DST, they rely on ideas that might not be true anymore. Or, might not apply everywhere.
Right. Like what?
Like energy conservation.
Yeah.
We've held on to that as a main reason for DST.
Right.
But the evidence is showing that it's much more complicated than that. And the economic benefits, they're real for some.
Yeah.
But they could be balanced out by hidden costs elsewhere. It's like this whole DST debate makes us face the complexity of time itself.
Yeah.
How we measure it, how it affects us.
Right.
And how, as we learn more, our understanding of it changes.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
It's not just about gaining or losing an hour of daylight, really.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's about how we see time.
Yeah.
How we organize our days, our lives.
Absolutely. And speaking of how we organize time, let's look at how different parts of the world handle this whole DST thing.
Right. Let's broaden our view. See how different countries are wrestling with these same questions.
It's like a global patchwork of approaches.
A patchwork of time.
Exactly.
So we're back, diving deeper into daylight saving time.
Back at it.
Before the break, we were about to hop around the globe.
That's right.
See how different countries tackle DST? It's like a worldwide mix of time zones and clock changing.
A real patchwork.
Where should we start our tour?
Let's head over to Europe.
Okay.
They call it summertime over there. Their schedule is a lot like the U.S., actually.
Yeah.
Clocks forward on the last Sunday in March, back on the last Sunday in October.
Okay, sounds familiar.
But here's the twist.
What's that?
A few years ago, 2019, the European Parliament, they voted to get rid of DST.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Completely ditch the clock changes.
That was the plan.
So no more springing forward, no more falling back.
Exactly. Each EU country would decide, stick with permanent summertime or go back to standard time year-round.
Interesting.
But, well, you know how it is with time.
Yeah.
It's gotten complicated.
Of course.
The whole thing's been delayed.
Okay.
So the future of DST in Europe it's still kind of up in the air.
Even ending DST is tricky.
It seems that way.
So while Europe figures that out, what about places near the equator?
Yeah.
They don't even mess with DST, right?
You got it.
Why is that?
It's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Being closer to the equator, their daylight hours, they're pretty consistent year-round.
Ah, so they don't have those big shifts in sunrise and sunset like we do.
Exactly.
Shifting the clock wouldn't do much for them.
Not really. No need to fix what ain't broken, right?
Exactly. Any other interesting DST situations around the world?
Oh, definitely. Australia's a good one.
Okay.
They've got time differences within the country.
Wait, seriously?
Yep. Some states use DST, others don't.
Wow. That's going to be confusing.
Yeah, imagine scheduling a meeting across state lines.
It's a logistical nightmare.
It really highlights, how different places approach DST.
It really does. Okay, so we've covered the history, debated the pros and cons, taken a quick world tour.
A whirlwind tour.
So what does this all mean for the future of DST?
Good question.
Will it fade away?
Yeah.
Or is it here to stay?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And as we've seen, there's no simple answer.
No, not at all.
The evidence for DST's benefits, it's not as clear as it used to be. We're learning more about those circadian rhythms, how important they are, the risks of messing with them, and that whole energy-saving argument.
That's a sick one.
It might not even hold true anymore.
So are we heading toward a world without DST?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
In the U.S., the debates really heated up.
Okay.
Remember back in 2022, the U.S. Senate, they passed the Sunshine Protection Act.
Oh, right. Remind me what that was all about.
It basically proposed making DST permanent across the U.S.
Okay.
No more switching back and forth, just year-round DST.
So saying goodbye to standard time.
That was the idea.
Huh.
But then it hit a snag in the House of Representatives.
Oh, what happened?
It's been stalled ever since. Not enough political will to get it through.
Wow. It's amazing how something as simple as changing the clocks, it can get so political.
It really is.
It shows you the power of tradition, the influence of different groups, and just how hard it is to make changes, even when, there's evidence to back them up.
Absolutely.
And it's not just at the federal level, right?
No.
Some states have taken things into their own hands.
You're right.
With the whole DST thing.
Yeah, places like California, Washington, Florida.
Okay.
They've passed laws that would let them make DST permanent if federal law allows.
Interesting. So they're ready if Congress gives the green light.
Basically, yeah.
So we could end up with some parts of the U.S. on DST all year, others on standard time.
Could happen.
Yeah.
That's confusing, like a time zone puzzle.
It would be. It really shows you this issue, it's complex.
Yeah, no easy answers.
Not really.
So what can we, the regular people living through this, what can we do?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Okay.
Have these conversations, make our voices heard.
Yeah.
Look at the evidence, the impact on our health, the economy, our lives. Then, speak up for the time system we think is best.
Whether that's sticking with the changes, getting rid of DST, or going permanent.
It's a decision that affects us all.
It really does.
Through all this talk about DST, it's hit me. This goes beyond just springing forward or falling back.
It does, doesn't it?
It makes us think about our whole relationship with time.
That's a great point. And that's actually where we're heading next.
Really?
We're going to shift gears from the practical stuff to the more philosophical.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're going to explore what this DST debate tells us about how we see time, how we try to control it, and what it means for the future of, how we keep time.
Oh, wow, this is getting deep.
Buckle up.
All right, we're back.
We are.
Final part of our deep dive on daylight saving time.
That's right.
We've gone through the history, the arguments, different views around the world. Now, time to get a little philosophical.
I like it.
You said earlier that the DST debate, it shows something deeper about how we relate to time.
It really does.
So, tell me more.
Well, think about it. This whole DST thing,
Yeah.
it makes us think about some really basic questions.
Yeah.
Like, how do we even understand time as humans?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we try to organize it?
Right.
For centuries, we lived by the sun, right?
Yeah.
Sunrise, sunset. That's what set the rhythm of everything.
It's true.
But then societies got more complex.
Right.
We needed more precise ways to measure time.
So that's where time zones and clocks come in.
Exactly. We had to sync up our activities,
Yeah.
coordinate across distances.
Keep those trains running on time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then here comes DST.
Okay.
This attempt to manipulate time
Right.
to get what we want. More daylight, save energy, boost the economy.
It messes with our neat timekeeping system.
It does.
Yeah.
It's this tension between our need to control and the fact that, time just keeps going.
We can change our clocks, but we can't actually change time.
Exactly.
It just marches on.
And the DST debate,
Yeah.
it brings those big questions to the forefront.
Like what?
Is time a fixed thing, or is it more flexible? Should we follow the sun's natural rhythm?
Yeah.
Or should we even try to bend time to our will?
It's amazing we started with changing the clocks.
I know, right?
Now we're talking about the very nature of time.
That's what I love about these deep dives.
So as we wrap up this DST exploration,
Yeah.
what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I want them to see that time isn't just about clocks and schedules.
Right.
It's this fundamental part of being human. It shapes how we experience things,
Yeah.
our health, everything.
It really does.
This DST debate,
Yeah.
it shows us that our relationship with time, it's complex, it's always changing.
Okay.
As we learn more about ourselves, about the world,
Yeah.
we're going to be open to questioning what we think we know about time,
Okay.
rethinking how we do things,
Yeah.
and maybe even changing our timekeeping systems so they actually work for us.
I like that. It's about being aware,
Yeah.
mindful of how we experience time.
Totally.
Maybe this deep dive got people thinking, made them more curious about time in their own lives
That would be great.
and what it all means.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe someday we'll
Yeah.
look back at DST as this weird thing we tried, this attempt to control something we couldn't really control.
It's a thought-provoking way to end our time journey.
I think so.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into daylight saving time.
It's been fun.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, hope you learned something.
We'll be back with another deep dive soon,
Relax.
uncovering more fascinating topics.
Lots to explore out there.
Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring,
Yeah.
and remember, time might fly, but knowledge lasts.
That's the truth.
All right, so you've probably heard about this one, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
But we're going to take you beyond those headlines
Absolutely.
and really uncover what this fight means for the future of boxing.
You're sure.
We're talking about a matchup that had everyone buzzing for months,
Oh, yeah.
leading up to November 15th, 2024.
Huge.
Picture this AT&T Stadium,
Packed house.
packed a YouTuber stepping into the ring with a boxing legend.
It's crazy.
Huge age gap, streamed live on Netflix. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up.
You couldn't. It really was a carefully orchestrated spectacle from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And the pre-fight hype was almost as big as the fight itself.
It definitely felt that way. And remember, it was initially supposed to happen in July,
Right.
but got pushed back because Mike Tyson had an ulcer flare-up.
Uh-huh.
So you can imagine the tension building all those extra months.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone wondering, will it live up to the hype? Did it deliver on the spectacle? And was it even a legitimate fight?
Right.
What did each fighter bring to the table?
To understand that, you have to look beyond the surface.
Okay.
You had Jake Paul at 27 years old, representing this new wave of influencer boxers.
Interesting.
His whole career has been built on social media, attracting a younger audience, maybe less familiar with boxing.
Makes sense.
On the other side, you have Mike Tyson at 58, the old guard,
Right.
a massive name with a legendary past.
Yeah, some critics questioned if this was even a legitimate fight, Tyson being so far past his prime.
Right, but you can't deny that Jake Paul has been steadily improving with each fight.
That's true.
And while Tyson is obviously not the fighter he once was, he's still Mike Tyson.
He's Mike Tyson.
There's a reason his name still carries so much weight.
For sure.
Plus, to address the idea that it wasn't a real boxing event,
Okay.
the undercard featured some serious talent.
Okay.
The Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano fight, for example, was for the undisputed junior welterweight championship.
So for those newer to boxing, the undercard means the fights that happen before the main event. In this case, it showed this wasn't just a spectacle, but a full card of competitive boxing.
Right.
Okay, so fight night arrives. What was the story the sources tell us about what happened inside the ring?
It really became a battle of strategy versus stamina.
Interesting.
Jake Paul's game plan was clear. The use his youth and stamina to outlast Tyson, who, despite his power, would likely tire as the fight progressed.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what he did.
That's fascinating because one article pointed out that Paul threw 278 punches throughout the fight.
Wow.
Compared to just 97 from Tyson.
That's a big difference.
I mean, that's a massive difference.
It is. And those stats tell a story.
Yeah.
They reveal the strategic choices each fighter made.
Okay.
Paul went for volume, trying to rack up points with consistent hits.
Right.
Tyson, on the other hand, was more selective, looking for that one knockout punch.
Makes sense.
But as the fight went on, Tyson visibly faded. And those power punches just weren't connecting as frequently.
So despite the age difference, it wasn't just a case of the young gun overwhelming the veteran with youthful energy.
Right.
There was a clear strategy at play.
Exactly. And while some sources called the fight lackluster, I think that misses the nuance of what we saw.
Oh, okay.
Given the age gap and their fighting styles, this type of tactical fight was to be expected.
Okay, so now for the big question. Everyone's waiting for who won.
Well, the judges' scorecards were pretty decisive.
All right, give us the dramatic pause, and the winner is?
Jake Paul won by unanimous decision.
Wow, unanimous. I have to admit, I didn't expect it to be so one-sided.
Yeah.
What led to such a decisive victory for Paul? Was it just stamina, or were there other factors at play?
The scores were 80-72, 79-73, and 79-73, all heavily in Paul's favor.
Wow.
This wasn't a fluke. He truly outboxed Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And the reason for that, the sources suggest, goes beyond just stamina.
Okay.
One boxing analyst pointed out that Paul's footwork was surprisingly good, allowing him to control the distance and avoid Tyson's power shots.
So it sounds like Paul really did his homework and came in with a solid game plan.
He did, and you have to give him credit for that. He absolutely did, and I think that's where some of the mixed reactions came from.
Yeah.
Some people saw it as proof that Jake Paul is evolving as a boxer.
Right.
Others, maybe those more attached to Tyson's legacy.
Yeah.
Focused on his decline, perhaps unable to accept that the aging legend could be outmatched by a younger, less experienced fighter.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can imagine it being tough for some fans to watch their hero lose.
For sure.
Especially to someone like Jake Paul, who came from outside the traditional boxing world.
Exactly. And let's not forget the sheer spectacle of it all.
Oh, yeah.
The influencer hype, the Netflix streaming, the massive audience.
Yeah.
It all added to the complex mix of reactions.
Speaking of reactions, one thing that jumped out at me from the sources was the talk about this fight being a potential turning point for boxing.
Yeah.
Some argue it was a farce that cheapens the sport,
right,
while others see it as a sign of progress, bringing in a new generation of fans. What's your take on that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It feels like it.
And I think it's a question you need to consider as well.
Okay.
Does this fight, with all its hype and non-traditional elements, enhance boxing's appeal or detract from it? Does it open doors for new talent and expand the audience, or does it compromise the sport's integrity?
It's interesting because on one hand, you have this massive viewership on Netflix.
Right.
A platform known for its accessibility and global reach.
For sure.
60 million households tuned in. That's huge.
That's massive.
And it's not just the numbers, it's how those viewers experience the fight.
Right.
Streaming offers a level of convenience that traditional pay-per-view just can't match.
You got that right.
People could watch on their phones, laptops, smart TVs, wherever they wanted.
Exactly. That's a key point.
Yeah.
It changes the whole game in terms of who's watching and how they're engaging with the sport.
Yeah.
And for a sport that's been struggling to maintain its relevance in a changing media landscape, that kind of exposure is invaluable.
But on the flip side, does this type of event with all the influencer hype and spectacle overshadow the actual sport?
Right.
Does it alienate the hardcore boxing fans who value technique, strategy, and the history of boxing?
Sure.
Are we sacrificing substance for entertainment?
It's a valid concern, and it's a tension that boxing has been grappling with for a while now.
I see.
This fight just brought it into sharper focus.
Yeah.
You have this clash between traditionalists and those who embrace this new era of entertainment-driven boxing.
It's like that debate in music between selling out and reaching a wider audience. Is there a way to do both? Can boxing evolve without losing its soul?
That's what's fascinating here. This fight wasn't just about Paul versus Tyson. It was about boxing's identity in the 21st century.
Okay.
Can it balance the raw athleticism and technical skill with the entertainment value that attracts a broader audience?
It's a tightrope walk for sure, but maybe fights like this, as controversial as they are, force us to have those tough conversations and figure out where we as fans stand.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, honoring the past while embracing the future.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe, fights like this can help us do both.
Yeah. It's a tricky situation for sure. And thinking about it, it's not just boxing that's changing.
Right.
The way we consume sports in general is evolving rapidly.
Absolutely.
Streaming is becoming the dominant force.
For sure.
And that has huge implications for all sports, not just boxing.
Absolutely. It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Traditional broadcasters are scrambling to keep up, and platforms like Netflix are seeing the potential to disrupt the entire sports industry.
You mentioned Netflix, and their success with this fight was undeniable.
Yeah.
65 million concurrent streams at its peak.
Wow.
That's a game changer.
It is.
It shows the power and reach of these streaming platforms.
Absolutely.
Remember how we used to be tied to cable packages and specific channels to watch our favorite sports?
Yeah, those days are fading fast.
Yeah.
With streaming, we have more choice and control than ever before.
Yeah.
We can watch what we want when we want, and on whatever device we choose.
It's empowering for viewers.
It is.
But I imagine it creates new challenges for leagues and organizations.
Right.
Trying to reach their audiences in this fragmented landscape, how do they adapt to this new reality?
It's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
They need to maintain their existing fan base.
Right.
While also appealing to new viewers who might be discovering the sport through streaming.
Right.
And let's be honest, it's not just about convenience for viewers.
Okay.
For streaming platforms, it's about the money. They see live sports as a way to attract and retain subscribers.
That makes sense. Live sports are still one of the few things that can reliably draw a massive audience at the same time.
For sure.
And in the streaming world where competition for subscribers is fierce, that kind of event is pure gold.
You hit the nail on the head.
Right.
It's all about capturing eyeballs and keeping people glued to their screens.
Right.
And sports with their unpredictable drama and communal viewing experience are a perfect fit for the streaming model.
So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for sports broadcasting as streaming continues to rise?
I think we're going to see even more blurring of the lines between traditional sports and entertainment.
Okay.
We'll see more unconventional matchups like Paul versus Tyson, more celebrity involvement, and more emphasis on creating a spectacle that goes beyond the sport itself.
It's like they're taking cues from the world of professional wrestling, where the storylines and personalities are as important as the athletic competition.
Precisely. And it's working. Look at the viewership numbers for these hybrid events.
Yeah.
They're pulling in huge audiences.
Right.
And that's what ultimately drives the industry.
So the future of sports might be less about purists and traditionalists and more about embracing the entertainment aspect.
Yeah.
Catering to a broader, more diverse audience.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And I believe we'll also see more streaming platforms entering the game.
Okay.
Bidding for the rights to broadcast major sporting events. The battle for live sports content will only intensify.
Which in a way is good news for us as viewers, right?
Right.
More competition usually means more options, better quality, and maybe even lower prices.
You got it. It's a win-win situation for fans. We get to enjoy our favorite sports in new and innovative ways.
Right.
While the industry evolved to meet the demands of a changing world.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about. From the rise of influencer boxers to the streaming revolution.
For sure.
This deep dive into the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight has been incredibly insightful.
It's amazing how a single event can reflect such larger trends and forces at play in our society.
Yeah.
And boxing, with its long and storied history, provides the perfect backdrop for these conversations.
So for you listening, we want to leave you with this.
Okay.
What does the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight mean to you? Does it change how you view boxing? Does it make you more or less interested in the sport?
Take some time to ponder those questions.
Yeah.
Consider the future of boxing, the impact of streaming, and the evolving relationship between sports and entertainment. These are conversations worth having.
Absolutely.
And your perspective matters.
We've equipped you with insights from various sources and expert analysis.
Right.
Now it's your turn to form your own conclusions. As always, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas.
For sure.
And engaging in these important discussions.
Remember, the world of sports is constantly evolving, and it's up to us as fans and consumers to shape its future.
That's a good point.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
All right, so we're diving into a rivalry that's got everyone talking, Man City versus Tottenham Hotspur, and we've got some fascinating articles here, even podcast recommendations pointing to these matches being like must-watch TV. And what's cool about this is it's not just for the diehards, even if you're not glued to the Premier League every week. This rivalry tells us a lot about how teams change over time. Personalities clash and how some matches just become legendary.
Yeah, for sure. And what's really interesting is that this rivalry, maybe it doesn't have like the decades and decades of history like some of the others, but it's these recent chapters that really make it exciting.
I'm curious about that. What is it about these recent matches that make them stand out?
Well, okay, so think about that 2019 Champions League quarterfinal.
Oh, yeah.
4-4 aggregate score. I mean, that second leg at the Etihad was absolutely bonkers. Back and forth goals. The tension was unbelievable. It was a real, a proper footballing battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And, our sources here, they point out that even their Premier League matches, they have this way of becoming a really pivotal moments in the season, like Tottenham's win in the 22-23 season.
Right.
Really showed that they can shake things up at the top of the table. But it feels like there's more to it than just like wins and losses, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the things that really makes this rivalry so interesting to follow is the clash of styles you get when these two teams meet.
Oh, yeah. I'm fascinated by this because you've got Guardiola City, known for their beautiful possession-based attacking football.
Right. And then you've got Tottenham, who've been so adaptable over the years. We've seen them press high. We've seen them absorb pressure. We've seen them hit on the counter. I mean, they really keep everyone guessing, and it makes every match such a tactical chess match.
It really does. And speaking of keeping everyone guessing, you can't ignore the individual players here, the star power.
Mm-hmm.
How does that factor into this rivalry?
Well, I mean, you can't talk about this rivalry without mentioning names like De Bruyne and Haaland for City. You've got Kane and Son for Tottenham,
Oh, yeah.
De Bruyne, I mean, his vision, his passing are just sublime. Haaland, he's a goal-scoring machine. And then Kane, he just seems to find another gear when he plays against City.
It's interesting you say that about Kane because our sources, they really highlight how clinical he is against City. Why do you think that is? Is there something about City's defense that he's particularly good at exploiting?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I think it's a combination of things. Kane, he's incredibly intelligent on the pitch. He reads the game so well. He's able to find those pockets of space between City's center backs and the midfield. But there's also this mental aspect to it. He seems to relish the challenge of playing against City, and he always seems to rise to the occasion.
It's almost like he's got their number.
Yeah.
And speaking of things being a little bit shaken up, our sources also point out that, as of November 2024, we're in a very interesting period for this rivalry. Man City is in a bit of uncharted territory, a 4-match losing streak under Guardiola, including that Carabao Cup loss to Tottenham that's almost unheard of for a Guardiola side.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal, City. They're not used to losing, let alone losing like this. So it makes you wonder, is this just a blip or is this a sign of something bigger? Especially, with Tottenham's recent upturn in form under the new manager. I mean, do you think this could be the start of a power shift?
It's so hard to say. I think it's still early, but it's certainly an intriguing possibility.
Yeah.
But regardless of who's on top, these matches, they always seem to be more than just your average league fixture.
Oh, absolutely. These matches are events.
Wow.
The atmosphere is electric. The quality of football is top notch. The individual battles, it all creates a spectacle that goes beyond just 3 points.
Right. So to recap, we've got a rivalry fueled by, these contrasting styles, star-studded lineups, and some pretty big question marks about what the future holds. I mean, It's a pretty compelling combination.
It really is. And it leads us to a fascinating question, Is this the changing of the guard, or will we see City, kind of reassert their dominance? It's a question that's going to be answered on the pitch and one that's going to keep us all on the edge of our seats, I think.
I think so, too. And the next time these two clash, I urge you to watch it with fresh eyes because you'll see it's about way more than just the final score.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the tactical battle that's unfolding, the individual matchups, the ebb and flow of the game. You might just find yourself caught up in the drama of it all.
Oh, for sure.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the Man City Spurs rivalry. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.
Cheers, Weir.
All right, so we're diving into one of those rivalries that it gets the blood pumping, College football, you get the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah, a rivalry for the ages, right? Back to 1920, over a century of just some hard-nosed football.
We're talking Big 8, we're talking Big 12, so much history, so many big games, big moments. I mean, for fans who really know those conferences, this is a big one.
I think what's really interesting about it is you see the conferences kind of change, evolve over time, college football itself. And you can track that, see those changes through this one rivalry, just through the wins and losses.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the very first game, right? Back in 1920. And I don't know if this set the tone for everything to come, but Colorado they demolished Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
40-7.
Wow. Yeah, and that wasn't just a one-off. Thinking about their time together in the Big Eight, Colorado, I mean, they really had Oklahoma State's number for a long time.
What was the key to that?
Yeah.
Was it a coaching thing? Were they just way more talented? Or was there a certain style they played that Oklahoma State just couldn't crack?
There's a lot of factors, but, I think a big part of it was that Colorado defense. I mean, just tough. Shutting teams down week in, week out, forcing those turnovers, just relentless. And it's got to be when you're on offense and you're facing that kind of pressure every single play, it's got to get in your head, right? You can't get any momentum going.
8 wins in a row, right?
8 in a row from 89 to 96.
I mean, that's got to do something to a team mentally.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, it's psychological at that point.
And then, 96 comes around, college football, it all kind of gets shaken up. We have the Big 12, new conference, new landscape. Did that change how this rivalry played out?
Oh, yeah, it did. They weren't facing off as often anymore, with how the Big 12 was divided up.
Yeah.
But when they did meet, those games, they were still nail-biters, still intense.
Give me an example.
2001, Colorado wins, but it's close, 22-19. Oklahoma State's right there. But then fast forward a few years, 2004, it's payback time. Cowboys just run all over them, 42-14.
Do you think by that point, had Oklahoma State figured out how to handle that Colorado defense? That defense was legendary for so long.
It seems that way, yeah. They'd built up their own offense by then. They were putting up points, controlling the pace of the game. It was a real shift from those early Big 8 days.
Huge turning point, though. Got to be the Alamo Bowl.
Yeah.
2016. So they both moved on from the Big 12 at this point. First time they meet up since that happened. And man, Oklahoma State, they just dominated 38-8.
I mean, the MVP of that game, James Washington, Oklahoma State's receiver, he was unreal. It was like watching that game, it was a preview of what Oklahoma State was becoming, offensively just a force to be reckoned with.
Which brings us up to, pretty recently, right? November 29th, 2024. This rivalry, it gets reignited. Now, Colorado, they were having a heck of a season, 8-3, thinking playoffs. Oklahoma State, not so much. They were trying to, bounce back from a rough year. Stakes were high.
Totally different places those two programs were in. Colorado's up there feeling good, while Oklahoma State's got to prove something. Two teams, different motivations, makes for a great matchup.
So where do we stand now? Colorado, they've had these periods of dominance. But then Oklahoma State, they have those flashes of brilliance. Colorado's still ahead, 26-21 overall. But Oklahoma State's had some winning streaks too, haven't they?
They have, yeah. I think that's what makes this rivalry so fun. It's the back and forth. It's never been one team just totally owning the other. You think they've got the upper hand, and then bam, the other team comes back strong. Keeps those fans on the edge of their seats year after year for decades.
It makes you wonder, what's next? Does Colorado get back on top? Or does Oklahoma State keep climbing? Guess we got to wait and see. That's what's great about these college football rivalries, right? Got to play the games.
Makes you think bigger picture, too. How has college football itself changed these rivalries? Conferences shifting, offenses evolving, defenses changing. It's a lot to think about as we watch this rivalry play out and all the others.
Absolutely. All right, well, that is our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're diving into something huge today.
Oh, yeah.
Jets and Bills.
Absolutely.
And this is huge. Over 2 million Google searches.
Wow.
About this rivalry.
Yeah.
And it makes sense after looking at this article.
Yeah.
This isn't just another game on the schedule. This is who is going to be top dog in the AFC East.
You're right.
The Patriots.
Right.
They were kings for so long.
Yeah.
And now
for a long time.
Wide open.
And you see that changing to the guard.
Yeah.
Which is always fascinating in the NFL.
And honestly, it feels like it all comes down to Rodgers versus Allen. Talk about a quarterback showdown for the ages.
Yeah, two very different quarterbacks, two very different styles of play.
Completely. You've got Rodgers with the experience,
right?
The accuracy.
Your mind.
He just sees the field in a way that...
Yeah, he dissects defenses.
Exactly. And then you've got Allen, who's like a human highlight reel. The arm strength, the way he moves,
his best.
It's insane. The article actually breaks down some of their biggest plays. I have to say, that touchdown pass Rodgers threw a couple weeks ago, where he threaded the needle between two defenders, it was unbelievable.
You must never see a throw like that.
I know. And then Allen will just escape the pocket and launch a bomb.
Right.
50 yards downfield. And you're like, how does he even do that?
Yeah, it's two completely different ways to win a football game.
And what I love about this matchup, too, is you have these brilliant coaches behind it all.
Yeah.
Sella for the Jets and McDermott for the Bills.
Right, and you're talking about two very different styles of coaching as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, McDermott, he's turned the Bills into this defensive powerhouse.
Right, they've been building to this for a while.
Yeah, and then you have Sella, who's all about getting the most out of his players. And with Rodgers there now, it's like he's unlocked something special with the Jets.
They're playing with a different energy this season.
They really are.
Yeah.
It's like they finally believe they can compete with anyone.
And that's half the battle right there.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we've got the players, we've got the coaches. But what makes this rivalry so fascinating is that it goes beyond just who's on the field. It's about the strategies, the adjustments, like a chess match.
It really is. You'll see McDermott using a lot of those rollouts and bootlegs with Allen.
Oh, yeah. Take advantage of that mobility.
Exactly. Keep the defense guessing. And then Sella's trying to counter that with these creative blitz packages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, trying to keep Allen contained.
So it's like they're always one step ahead trying to outsmart each other.
Absolutely. And it makes for some really exciting football.
And, you know, when you talk about trying to contain a guy like Josh Allen,
oh, yeah,
you need a defense that can actually step up to the challenge. And the article does not let us down there.
No, it doesn't.
It really gets into the weeds about these two defenses.
Yeah.
And that matchup in particular.
Right.
Sauce Gardner versus Stephon Diggs.
Oh, man.
That's box office right there.
Every single time.
I mean, talk about a clash at Titans.
And Gardner, he's just come onto the scene.
So good, so fast.
And just shut down some of the best receivers in the league.
I mean, the way he could just blanket Diggs.
The size, the instincts.
Like, he knows what Diggs is going to do before Diggs even does.
They're reading each other's minds out there.
It's insane. But then again, we're talking about Stephon Diggs.
Right.
I mean, this guy...
elite route runner.
He's like a ballerina out there.
Yeah.
The way he can just get open, even with someone like Gardner.
You know he's open even when he's covered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you even game plan for that?
McDermott's got to be pulling out all the stops.
I bet.
Moving Diggs around formations, stacks, bunches, anything to try and...
yeah, create a little bit of separation.
Just a little bit of space is all he needs.
Right, because if he gets even a step...
it's over.
Touchdown.
Yeah.
So we've got the quarterback duel. We've got these incredible defensive matchups. But then there's this whole other layer.
There is.
The history of this rivalry.
Oh, yeah. This one goes way back.
I mean, Jets and Bills... this isn't some new thing.
Yeah. No, this goes back to the AFL days.
Okay, so give me a little history lesson here.
Okay, so...
what makes this chapter of the rivalry so special?
So you think about the Jets, right?
Yeah.
For years, they were always chasing the Dolphins, the Patriots, right?
And recently, the Bills.
Exactly. They were always trying to catch up.
The little brother.
And then Rodgers comes to town. Boom.
Changes everything.
It's like a switch flipped.
It really is.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the Jets are expecting to win.
Not just compete.
They're playing to win championships. And that belief, that's huge.
You can feel it. It's like this underdog story coming to life.
And you know, fans, they love that.
Oh, absolutely. And then you add in the whole fantasy football angle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm in a league myself.
Oh, really?
And let me tell you, having guys like Rodgers, Allen, Diggs.
Oh, your weekend can be made or broken.
Seriously. The trash talk in my group chat is next level when the Jets and Bills play.
It's a whole different ball game.
And I haven't even mentioned the betting.
Oh, man. Fortunes are won and lost. I bet. These games are like must-see TV for anyone who put money down.
Oh, absolutely. Every snap, every play matters.
You know, it's funny. You've got the history, you've got the star power, the coaches, the fans, the fantasy football, the betting.
It's everything.
It's like this perfect storm of football excitement.
And it's all culminating in this rivalry.
This is why we watch. And, you know, it all comes down to this. Can the Jets keep this up?
That's the big question.
Can they really dethrone the Bills?
Right. I mean, the Bills have been building towards this for years.
They have.
They've got the experience, they've got the talent, they've got the coach.
The whole package?
They're the team to beat in the AFC East right now.
And they know it.
Oh, yeah, they're playing with that swagger.
But the Jets are no joke this year.
No, they're legit.
Rodgers coming in.
Completely changed the energy.
It's like night and day.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, they believe they can win now.
Yeah, and that's huge.
Huge. You can't teach that.
You can't. And Rodgers... he brings
absolutely
that confidence, that swagger.
He's a winner.
He makes everyone around him better.
And that's what you need in a tight divisional race.
It's like you're watching a movie unfold.
It really is.
This upstart team trying to take down the champs.
Yeah. The old guard versus the new blood.
And who knows how it's going to end.
That's the beauty of it, right?
I know. It's like you got to tune in every week.
You don't want to miss a snap.
So to everyone listening, if you weren't already hooked on this rivalry,
get on board.
This is must-see TV.
This is it.
Jets, Bills.
Yeah.
This is for all the marbles.
AFC East supremacy is on the line.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you.
Every step of the way.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We'll catch you next time. All right, so we're diving into a game with some serious playoff implications.
Oh, yeah.
Steelers versus Bengals, Week 13.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both teams came in needing a win, but the Bengals had a big obstacle to overcome. No Joe Burrow.
Huge. I mean, you take a team's starting quarterback out of the equation, especially a quarterback of Burrow's caliber, it's an uphill battle.
It's like trying to sail a ship with a hole in it, you know?
Exactly. You're trying to bail water and navigate at the same time.
So let's unpack this. First, the Steelers' offense. I mean, talk about a transformation.
Right. Before this game, they were pretty one-dimensional. Kenny Pickett was throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game, and it wasn't working.
Yeah, they were predictable. And that's exactly what their new offensive coordinator changed.
Yeah, they brought in this run-first mentality, and suddenly Najee Harris is a factor again.
He was practically invisible in the first part of the season.
You know, right? It's like they forgot they had this super talented running back.
And it wasn't just Harris. George Pickens, too. He finally got the opportunities to make those big plays downfield.
Pickens is a beast. Give him some space, and he'll burn any defender. But he needs a quarterback who has time to throw.
And that's where the balanced attack comes in.
100%. It keeps defenses honest. They can't just focus on rushing the passer or stacking the box against the run.
Now, let's talk about the Bengals. How did they try to adapt without Burrow? I mean, obviously you can't replace a guy like that overnight.
No, you can't. But they did have Jamar Chase, and boy, did he put on a show.
He was making catches I didn't even think were physically possible.
He's just a different breed, you know? That guy can turn a 5-yard slant into a 60-yard touchdown.
But it felt like he was carrying the entire offense on his shoulders.
He pretty much was. They had Jake Browning in at quarterback.
Who, let's be honest, is not Joe Burrow.
Not even close.
So what could they have done differently, strategically, to give Browning more support?
Well, they definitely could have simplified the playbook. More short passes, more screens, anything to get the ball out of Browning's hands quickly and into the hands of their playmakers.
Make it easier for him to manage the game.
Exactly. Don't ask him to do too much. They also could have tried to control the clock more, keep their defense off the field.
Because that Steelers defense,
Babe.
They were terrifying.
Oh, man. TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith were like sharks in a feeding frenzy.
They were all over Browning. Those two were the difference makers in this game.
Absolutely. Watt was unblockable. He was in the backfield on almost every play, disrupting everything. And then you've got Highsmith on the other side, equally relentless. They just overwhelmed the Bengals offensive line.
Like the Bengals offense hit a steel curtain.
Yeah, that's a good one. But you're right. It was that Steelers defense that won them this game.
And we can't forget about special teams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Special teams are so often overlooked, but they played a huge role in this one. The Steelers' punter was pinning the Bengals deep in their own territory all night long.
Which made it that much harder for them to even get into scoring position.
Exactly. Every drive was an uphill battle for them.
So the Steelers get the win, inching them closer to that playoff spot. But for the Bengals, this loss raises a big question.
Yeah, can they make a run without Burrow? It's going to be tough.
They need to figure out their offense and fast. Otherwise, this could be the beginning of a pretty rough stretch for them.
Absolutely.
This game was really fascinating, I think.
Yeah.
Not just because of the outcome, but because it felt like we were watching a changing of the guard in the AFC North.
You know, you're right. We saw the Steelers reinvent themselves on offense. The Bengals struggle to adapt without their leader, and that Steelers defense just dominating.
I think this game says a lot about the future of this division.
It does. It raises so many questions. Can the Steelers keep this momentum going with their new offensive approach? Can the Bengals find a way to stay competitive without Burrow? And how will the rest of the division respond to these shifts in power? This is just the beginning, and I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Mine either.
So much is up in the air, and that's what makes it so exciting.
This is going to be a wild ride.
Buckle up.
That's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time.
See you then.
Ever heard of those people who just seem to do it all? Like, seriously, do it all.
Yeah, I know the type.
Well, get ready to dive deep into the life of one of them, Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, he's a pastor,
Obviously.
but also an author.
Oh, yeah, he's written a ton.
Filmmaker, advisor. I mean, the list goes on and on. I've got a whole stack of articles and bios here you sent over.
Yep, he's quite the accomplished guy.
So let's go beyond the headlines, beyond, just the surface level stuff.
Right.
Let's really figure out what makes him tick.
Okay, I like it.
What are the common threads in his life? What can we learn from this guy's path?
Well, one thing you just can't miss is his resilience.
Oh, absolutely. Like right from the start, his childhood nickname, the Bible Boy.
The Bible Boy.
Born and raised in West Virginia. Church was a huge part of his life.
Right from the beginning.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
He had a speech impediment.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine wanting to be a preacher?
I mean, public speaking is like
the core of it.
The core of the job, right?
With that obstacle.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes some serious courage.
You got to have some deep-seated conviction, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just wanting to preach. This is a need to connect with people, communicate his message.
Almost like that early challenge just fueled him.
Right.
Gave him this determination that you see throughout his life.
Absolutely.
That drive is crystal clear in his early career. He starts leading a small congregation in West Virginia in the 80s.
Okay.
And gains a reputation for this super dynamic, powerful preaching style.
Yeah, he's got that presence.
But it's not just preaching. He was also deeply involved in community outreach, starting programs to address, poverty, social issues.
Yeah.
All that.
That's such a key part of his story. It's like his ministry wasn't just confined to the pulpit. He knew you had to meet people where they were at.
Yeah.
Address those practical needs as well as the spiritual ones. And that really resonated with people.
The holistic approach.
Exactly.
And it totally sets the stage for what came next. 1996. Big move to Dallas.
Oh, yeah, the Potter's House.
He founds the Potter's House. Now, this isn't just any church. This is a mega church. It attracts over 30,000 members.
That's a lot of people.
What were the key ingredients?
I mean, what led to that incredible growth?
His preaching's obviously a huge part of it, right?
Yeah.
Jakes can just weave together scripture, personal stories, social commentary, and it's captivating.
Yeah, he makes you think. He makes you feel.
But he also gets the power of media. Televised sermons, conferences, workshops.
He wasn't afraid to use those new platforms.
Expand his reach. A total pioneer in using media to, spread the message beyond the church walls.
Yeah, he was ahead of the curve on that.
So we've got this dynamic preacher, understands the power of connection, not afraid to push boundaries, as if building a megachurch wasn't enough.
Right.
He also becomes the best-selling author.
Woman, thou art loosed.
Yeah. Destiny.
Big ones.
Tackling themes of empowerment, overcoming adversity.
Finding your purpose.
Right.
It's amazing how those themes run through all his work.
It's true.
The sermons, the books, even his films. Like he's offering guidance and inspiration, but also challenging people to take control, reach their full potential.
And then he goes into filmmaking, producing and acting in films like Jumping the Broom, Sparkle.
Oh, yeah.
He's exploring faith and redemption in whole new ways.
It's like he's always looking for new ways to connect with people, using different types of storytelling.
Reaching a wider audience.
Exactly.
And his influence goes way beyond just the religious sphere. Jakes has been an advisor to political leaders. Even delivered the invocation at President Obama's inauguration in 2009.
That's huge.
What do you think that says about his broader influence?
It shows that his message goes beyond the church. It resonates with people from all walks of life.
He's engaging in those big societal conversations.
Yeah, he's not shying away from the tough stuff.
Offering a perspective that's rooted in faith, but applies to so many issues.
Absolutely.
And you can tell his impact is deeply felt, like by his community. And way beyond that.
Oh, for sure.
Remember that health incident he had recently during a sermon?
Yeah, I remember that.
The outpouring of support and prayers, it was incredible.
Yeah, that was really something. Shows the genuine connection he's built.
So we've seen him as this preacher, building a megachurch, best-selling author, filmmaker, advisor, navigating both the religious and secular worlds.
It's really impressive.
And it seems like it all stems from this unshakable belief in faith, this idea that it can transform lives.
That's the thread that connects it all, right?
That deep conviction that people can overcome, find their purpose, achieve amazing things.
Yeah.
It makes you think, right? Like, how will T.D. Jakes be remembered?
I mean, will his legacy be just about his impact on religion?
Or will it be something bigger? Will it extend into the wider cultural sphere?
That's a great question.
Something to ponder.
I'm going to be thinking about that one.
I know I will.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Until next time.
Okay. See you then.
Bye. All right, so we're diving deep into one of the SEC's hottest rivalries today.
Oh, yeah.
Texas A&M, the Aggies, going up against the Auburn Tigers.
It's one you don't want to miss.
Now, this isn't some ancient, decades-old thing.
Yeah.
This rivalry really caught fire when, well, you probably know, when Texas A&M joined the SEC back in 2012.
Absolutely.
And every single year they clash. The energy is unbelievable.
It's electric, yeah.
But some folks out there might be thinking, like, okay, why should I care? These teams are hundreds of miles away from me. What's the big deal?
Right.
And that's what we're going to get into today. Because it's not just about football, right? It's about upsets. It's about coaching, like battles of the minds and those moments, those single games that can, like, completely rewrite the future of a program, a whole conference.
Yeah, for sure. And it's that unpredictability that's really captivating about this rivalry. It's the spirit of college football, tradition, passion, talent, all of that just collides. You just never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. And to really get a feel for how much this thing has evolved, we got to go back all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
First time they met, 1986, Cotton Bowl.
Wow.
Aggies crushed it, 36-16.
Big win.
But things, have they changed since then?
They have. I mean, the whole landscape of this rivalry shifted when A&M joined the SEC in 2012. Suddenly, these two teams are facing off every year. The stakes are through the roof.
Right. And that very first SEC matchup, 2012, it was a blowout. 63-21, A&M just steamrolled them.
Yeah.
So you'd think, okay, that sets the tone, right?
Yeah.
A&M's got Auburn's number.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But that's what's so great about this rivalry. It defies expectations. Those later upsets are even more shocking because of that initial dominance.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those unexpected turns because they're wild. Like 2014, the game comes down to the wire.
Oh, yeah.
41-38, A&M pulls it off. But I keep thinking about that interception late in the game. A&M could have sealed the deal, but then they fumbled the ball right back to Auburn.
Oh, man, that's right. And that play, that's like a perfect little snapshot of this whole rivalry back and forth. You never know who's going to come out on top. A&M, they got risky, went for the big play. And Auburn, they were ready, capitalized on that turnover. Even when you think one team has the upper hand, the other one can come roaring back just like that.
And when we talk about comebacks, I mean, nothing tops what went down in 2024. Auburn, they were having a rough season. 4-6, unranked, nobody expected much.
Nope.
Texas A&M, they were rolling, ranked 15th in the country, 8-2, looking like a real playoff contender. Everyone had them pegged for a big win.
They were the favorites for sure, and I don't think anyone saw what was coming. 4 overtimes.
4.
And Auburn, somehow they pull off this huge upset, 43-41.
They still can't believe it. What happened?
Yeah.
Like, what were the key factors that led to such a, it was seismic, that upset.
Yeah, it wasn't just luck. Auburn's coach, he came in with this honestly brilliant strategy. Like, he'd done his homework, knew A&M's weaknesses, especially in their secondary, and he just went after them relentlessly. Short passes, quick plays, basically took away A&M's pass rush. And on the other side, A&M, it felt like they were stuck in their usual playbook. Maybe underestimated Auburn's grit, their ability to fight back.
So you bring up the coaches, and that adds this whole other layer, right? It's like a chess match between these guys, each one trying to outsmart, outmaneuver the other.
It's fascinating. You got A&M's coach, more conservative, builds around a strong defense and a slow, grinding offense. Then you have Auburn's coach, totally different, loves to be aggressive, unpredictable, throws the playbook out the window, keeps the other team guessing.
And that 2024 upset, it really showed how a coach's ability to adapt to read the situation can just completely turn the tide.
It's a masterclass in adaptability. Auburn's coach, under immense pressure, he shifts the strategy, adjusts to the circumstances, and it works. He didn't let the team's record, the underdog status, hold him back. And honestly, that's a lesson that goes way beyond football. Being able to read the room, change your approach, make those tough decisions, it's crucial no matter what field you're in.
It is. It is. Now, we can't talk about A&M without talking about the 12th man tradition. I mean, that's got to play a role, right? That fan base, that energy, how does that factor into this rivalry?
Oh, the 12th man is more than just a tradition. It's like a symbol, you know, unity, unwavering support, that sea of students all standing. It's intimidating for opposing teams. And it shows just how deeply invested Aggie fans are. It's a huge part of their identity, their home field advantage.
It's powerful. And it makes me think about how these individual games, they have these ripple effects impacting the whole conference. So how does this specific rivalry, A&M versus Auburn, how does it shape the SEC as a whole?
Oh, it's huge. Every single win, every loss, it affects the conference standings, which then determines bowl game slots, national rankings, even recruiting. That 2024 upset, it probably cost A&M a chance at a higher-tier bowl game, maybe even a playoff spot. And it shifts the balance of power in the SEC West. Auburn proved they're still a contender.
So he started with this one game back in '86, and now it's this central storyline in the SEC. The passion, the upsets, the coaching battles, it's all there.
And it's that unpredictability that keeps us coming back for more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with the big question. What does Auburn's upset mean for next season? Has the momentum truly shifted? Can Auburn repeat that success against A&M? I don't know, but it's going to be a fascinating year.
No doubt. We'll be watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We love to take a deep dive into some of the NFL's most interesting storylines and rivalries.
Absolutely.
And today, we've got one for you that's got a little bit of a unique twist.
Definitely a unique one.
We're talking the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans.
Okay.
Now, you might think, oh, just another divisional rivalry, right?
Right.
But there's more to it than meets the eye. The Titans,
Yeah.
they were originally the Houston Oilers
Oh, wow.
before they relocated to Tennessee back in 1997.
I see.
So this isn't just about two teams battling it out for the top spot in the AFC South.
Gotcha.
It's about legacy, a city losing its beloved team,
Right.
and the birth of a whole new football identity in Houston.
Yeah, that relocation, man, that adds a whole other layer of complexity for Houston fans.
For sure.
Imagine having your team, a team that's so deeply connected to your city,
So
just up and leave.
Right.
That's got to leave a scar, right?
Absolutely.
Then in 2002, the Texans come onto the scene, carrying the weight of these huge expectations to fill that void left by the Oilers.
Yeah.
So every time these two teams meet, it's like this clash of the past and present,
It's almost like a family feud playing out on the football field.
Exactly.
To make things even more interesting, the Titans, they actually have a slight edge in the overall series record.
Oh, really?
They're leading 24-21.
Wow. Close.
Talk about a recipe for some seriously intense matchups.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We've got some great examples of that in the stuff that you send over.
Absolutely.
Like the Texans winning their first ever AFC South title
Right?
against the Titans.
No way!
Back in 2011, that's got to be, a symbolic moment for Houston. Like
Right.
their new team is finally arriving.
Right.
But then you got the Titans clinching a crucial playoff spot with a win in 2018,
Yeah.
reminding everybody that this rivalry, it's got implications for the entire NFL season.
Absolutely. So we've got these instant classics.
Yeah.
But then we can't forget about the game that kind of sparked this whole deep dive.
Right.
The Titans' 32-27 victory in Houston just a few days ago.
Oh, yeah.
November 24th, 2024.
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
So let's rewind a bit
Okay.
and break down some of the key moments.
Okay. Sounds good.
This game had everything you could want in a rivalry matchup.
It did.
I mean, rookie QB Will Levis,
Oh, yeah.
breakout performance for the Titans, throwing for 278 yards
Wow.
and 2 touchdowns,
Okay.
including this electrifying 70-yard touchdown pass to Chigokonko.
No way.
In the fourth quarter, it felt like he single-handedly shifted the momentum of the game.
Yeah, Levis was looking pretty sharp out there.
He was,
Yeah.
but it wasn't just him.
Okay.
Tony Pollard also had a monster game for the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Rushing for 119 yards and a touchdown. It was really a balanced attack that led them to victory.
Right.
So what about on the Texans side? What was going on over there?
Yeah, well, C.J. Stroud, their quarterback, had a bit of a rougher go of it.
Yeah.
Even though he did put up 247 passing yards and 2 touchdowns himself, threw 2 crucial interceptions.
Oh.
One of them was a pick six, returned for a touchdown by Titans safety Jimmy Ward.
Oof.
Those turnovers can really hurt you in a close game.
Yeah, and it was almost a tie game right at the end.
Oh, tell me about it. I was biting my nails.
Yeah, missed 28-yard field goal by Texans kicker Kaimi Fairbairn.
Ugh, that's gotta sting.
Talk about a heartbreaker. It's those moments, those what-ifs
Right.
that make these rivalries so captivating.
Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen.
Those razor-thin margins of victory.
It's more than just a win or a loss, too,
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. With Levi's playing like that,
Yeah.
could this be the start of something new for the Titans?
Possibly.
And how does a loss like this, especially on their home turf,
Yeah.
affect the Texans going forward?
I see what you're saying.
It's like these questions just add fuel to the fire of this rivalry.
It's crazy to think that these battles on the field,
Yeah.
they're just one part of the whole story.
Right.
Like, those games, they draw massive crowds in Houston.
That's what I've heard.
It's like the whole city is buzzing with anticipation whenever the Titans are in town.
Really?
It really speaks to how ingrained this rivalry is in Houston's culture.
It's about more than just the game, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's about pride.
Totally.
Bragging rights.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit of a desire to prove something.
Yeah.
To the team that left them behind all those years ago.
I see it.
So where do we go from here? We've got these two relatively young franchises.
Yeah.
Both with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Who have the potential to define the next chapter.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it.
Of this rivalry.
Totally.
What does the future hold for the Titans and Texans?
Well, that's the beauty of it all. We get to watch and find out.
That is true.
This deep dive, it's given you the background, the history, the passion that fuels this rivalry.
For sure.
Now it's up to you to see how it all unfolds.
I like that.
Keep an eye on these two teams. Because the next chapter of the Titans-Texans rivalry, well, it's going to be just as captivating as everything that's come before it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks.
And there you have it, folks. Another deep dive in the books.
See you next time.
We'll catch you on the next one.